Welcome to the Alpha Twins twist, a werewolf-fated mate romance, where fate is messy, the sparks are wild, and the full moon brings more than fur and fangs. There is snark, steam, and a mate bond either of them asked for, but cannot escape. Buckle up, pack. From haunted hearts to ancient curses, you will find stories here that pull you in and do not let go. If you are into tales that twist the real and the unreal, you are in the right place. TM. Nyxen Audiobooks. To my subscribers and listeners, your ears give these stories their second life. Hit that subscribe button, and let us dive in. The compound gates opened with a long, drawn-out groan of rust-eaten metal grinding on metal, and Kenna's rental car rolled through into Valley Forge territory. The tires crunched loudly on the packed gravel path. Her hands tightened on the smooth, cool plastic of the steering wheel as she took in the sprawling property. A curtain of dense, sharp-scented pine forests gave way to open, damp earth of training grounds, before cabins clustered like thick, brown mushrooms around a massive central lodge. The air here was thin and cold, carrying the heavy, rich scent of damp earth, smoke, and primal, territorial alpha power. Everything screamed authority, permanence, pack. Her wolf stirred beneath her skin, a hot, heavy coil tightening low in her belly, restless in a way that had nothing to do with the stiffness in her neck and shoulders from the 6-hour drive from the hospital. Kenna murmured, the sound barely a hiss in the quiet car, to herself, to her wolf, to the sudden sharp anxiety knotting her stomach into a hard ball. We are here for Myra, just the pup, that is all. The case file sat on her passenger seat, the thin paper cold beneath her fingertips when she briefly checked its weight. Myra Thornbrook, 8 years old, mysterious illness that had stumped 3 pack doctors already. Fever that would not break, pervasive lethargy, a wolf that would not surface even during the pressure of the full moon. Kenna parked near the lodge, the parking brake clicking sharply, and stepped out. The cold mountain wind instantly whipped strands of her bright red hair across her face. She wood-braided it back tightly this morning, attempting to look professional and neat, but already pieces were escaping, silky strands snapping against her cheek. She smoothed her hands down her jacket, a sensible, professional gray, medical. Do not focus on how your freckles stand out against your pale skin. Do not think about whether you look like a Luna or just a visiting doctor. You must be Dr. Ashford. The voice came from behind her, smooth, deep, and carrying a low, vibrant rumble that seemed to vibrate in the ground beneath her expensive, practical boots. When Kenna turned, her world tilted sideways so sharply she felt a dizzying physiological drop in her stomach. The man standing there was beautiful in the way alphas often were. Tall, a broad expanse of muscle visible beneath the stretch of a simple black t-shirt. His dark hair looked thick and tousled, like he would run his hands through it recently, and gray eyes, the color of a winter storm, pinned her in place like a butterfly to cork. The scent of him was overwhelming. Smoke, rain-soaked leather, and pure, concentrated alpha. And her wolf surged forward so hard, Kenna actually gasped. A sudden, involuntary sucking breath of mountain air. A blinding, white-hot magnetic pull snapped between her chest and his. There was a silent, deafening roar against the inside of her skull. Yes, she managed, her voice a thin, shaky rasp. Kenna, just Kenna is fine. His lips curved into a smile that was part welcome, part something else entirely, something primal that made Kenna's skin tingle with sudden heat. Welcome to Valley Forge. I'm happy. Showing off again, brother? Kenna's head whipped toward the lodge entrance, the swift movement pulling a muscle tight in her neck, and her heart stopped entirely. It ceased its frantic panic drumming, because there were 2 of them, identical, completely, impossibly identical. Same height, same powerful, sculpted build, same dark hair, and those intense, unsettling gray eyes and sharp jawline. The second man descended the lodge steps with the same fluid, easy grace as the first, and when his eyes met hers, her wolf did not just scream, it thrashed, demanding, a raw, urgent pressure building behind her ribs. Dr. Ashford, the second twin said, his voice a perfect sonic mirror of the first, hitting the same resonant frequency. His scent was identical too, the same intoxicating mix of smoke and dominance. Thank you for coming. Myra's parents are desperate. Kenna's medical training kicked in, a familiar, cold layer of rational thought trying to suppress the raw, disorienting force of the dual mate bond. Take me to her, please. Whatever is wrong, time matters with pups. The twins exchanged a look, brief, economical, communicating something in that silent, deep-rooted twin language you had heard about, but never witnessed. Then the first twin gestured toward the lodge. This way. Mira's in the medical cabin behind the main building. Kenna followed, acutely aware that both twins flanked her, one on each side. The mate bond pulled at her from both directions, a relentless, powerful tug right beneath her sternum, like a compass gone mad with two norths. She could feel the radiant, almost painful warmth coming off their bodies, and the scent of them together was overwhelming. She wanted to scream from the confusion of it. One of them had to be her mate. Fate did not make mistakes like this. But which one? Her wolf offered no clarity, just kept howling at both broad backs. How long has Mira been sick? Kenna asked, forcing the question out, focusing on the rough texture of the gravel path underfoot. Focus on the pup. That is why you are here. 3 weeks, the twin on her right answered. His voice was close, just over her shoulder. Started with a fever. We thought it was just a bug, but it never broke. Now she barely has the energy to shift, and her wolf has gone completely quiet. Any exposure to silver, wolfsbane, other toxins? None that we can find, the twin on her left said. We have gone through everything in her environment twice. They reached a smaller cabin set back from the main lodge, and one of the twin gods, she needed names, opened the wooden door for her. The scent hit her immediately. Heavy, stagnant illness, thick antiseptic, and the sharp, undeniable metallic tang of fear. Young fear, the kind that came from not understanding what was happening to your own body. Inside, a small girl lay on a narrow bed, her skin pale, almost translucent, and sheen slightly with sweat. Her parents sat on either side, their faces drawn tight, etched with exhaustion and terror. Mira, Kenna said softly, approaching the bed. She kept her voice low, a gentle hum. My name is Kenna. I am a doctor, and I am going to figure out what is wrong, okay? The girl's green eyes, so tired, the lids heavy, too tired for an 8-year-old, focused weakly on her. Her lips were cracked. Are you magic? Kenna smiled, setting down her worn leather medical bag. Sort of. I am very good at fixing things that other doctors cannot figure out. May I examine you? Myra nodded slowly, and Kenna went to work. Temperature, still elevated, 102.3 degrees, heat radiating beneath her palm. Heart rate, fast but steady, a small bird fluttering. She pressed her hands gently to Myra's abdomen, her ribs, feeling for any deep, tender resistance or swelling. Then she did what human doctors could not. She let a thread of her own wolf energy reach out, warm and seeking, a gentle golden light, searching for Mira's wolf, and found nothing. Not dead, not gone. Hiding, buried so deep it was like the girl's wolf had wrapped itself in cold, impenetrable stone, and adamantly refused to surface. Myra, Kenna said carefully, her fingers resting lightly on the girl's wrist. Has anything scared you recently? Anything that made your wolf want to hide? The girl's tired eyes filled with tears, which immediately tracked down her hot, clammy cheeks. The bad man. In my dreams, he has red eyes, and he tells me I am not strong enough to be a wolf. Kenna's blood went cold, an icy rush that started in her chest and spread immediately. She looked up at the parents, then at the twins who would remain silently by the door, their alpha stances rigid. How long has she been having these dreams? Since before the fever started, Myra's mother whispered, her voice cracking with strain. We thought they were just nightmares. They might be, Kenna said, though her instincts screamed otherwise. But her wolf is afraid, deeply afraid. Fear this strong can suppress a wolf's ability to surface, especially in young pups who have not fully developed their shift control yet. The twins moved closer, crossing the small distance in 2 powerful strides. Can you fix it? Kenna met his eyes, ray, intense, focused entirely on Mira, with a palpable wave of alpha protective concern radiating from him. Yes, but it will take time. I need to coax her wolf back out, Prove to it that it is safe. That means staying here, working with Mira daily until her wolf trusts enough to surface again. How long? The other twin asked, his voice sharp with urgency. Could be days. It could be 2 weeks. I will not know until I start. The twins exchanged another look, a flash of shared thought that Kenna could not parse, and then the first twin nodded, a decisive movement. Stay as long as it takes. We have a guest cabin near the training grounds. You will have privacy, access to the medical cabin whenever you need it, and whatever resources you require, the second twin added. The low sound of his voice seemed to resonate with the first. Myra is pack. We protect our pack. The way they said it, unified, absolute, sent a deep, involuntary shiver down Kenna's spine. These were alphas who took their responsibilities seriously, the kind of alphas the old stories told of, before power became about posturing instead of protecting. Thank you, Kenna said. She turned back to Myra, squeezed her small hand gently. The skin felt soft, too dry, and too hot against Kenna's own. I'm going to stay here for a while, okay? We are going to make your wolf brave again. Myra's weak smile, a tiny upturn of her pale lips, nearly broke her heart. 2 hours later, after establishing a treatment plan with Myra's parents and unpacking her essential medical supplies, Kenna found herself standing outside the guest cabin with both twins again. The sun was setting, painting the compound in shades of vibrant amber and fading gold, and the mate bond had not quieted for a single moment. It thrummed between her and, which one? Both of them. Her wolf had no answers, just kept pressing forward, wanting to close the distance, wanting to touch, claim. No, we should probably introduce ourselves properly, one twin said, a hint of amusement, a warm, low note in his voice. I am Dane. I am Devlin, the other said. Kenna looked between them, searching for any distinguishing feature in the fading light. There, Dane's left eyebrow had a tiny scar, a pale line barely visible against his dark skin, and Devlin's smile showed his left canine slightly more sharply than his right. Small things, minute things, but things she could learn. Thank you for the cabin, she said carefully. And for trusting me with Mira. You came highly recommended, Dane said. Or was it Devlin? Gods, they would already moved and she would lost track of who was who. Plus, the other twin added, and there was something playful now, a quick flash of humor in his gray eyes. Our wolves recognized you the moment you stepped onto our territory. Kenna's breath caught a sharp, gasping sound. Her pulse immediately began to pound a fast rhythm behind her ribs. Both of you? They shared another one of those looks, and then both twins smiled. Identical, maddening, knowing smiles. One of us is your fated mate, Dr. Ashford, the twin on the left said. The question is, the twin on the right continued, which one? And before Kenna could respond, before she could demand answers or clarification or anything, both twins turned and walked back toward the main lodge, leaving her standing alone outside her cabin with her wolf howling in confusion and her heart racing with something that felt dangerously like anticipation. She was here to heal a pup. She absolutely was not here to figure out which of 2 identical alpha twins fate had chosen for her, except her wolf had never been good at listening to reason. Kenna watched them disappear into the lodge, 2 silhouettes moving in perfect sync, and whispered to the mountain wind, "What have I gotten myself into?" Kenna woke to the persistent sharp tap-tap-tap of knocking on her cabin door, and the hazy pale gold sunlight streaming through unfamiliar, slightly dusty windows. For a disoriented moment, her body felt heavy and slow. She forgot where she was. Then her wolf stirred in her chest, a low, vibrant hum of alertness and anticipation. Everything from yesterday came rushing back in a dizzying wave of sensory overload. Valley Forge, the scent of pine and damp earth, the crushing fear of the sick pup, the impossible, dual pull of the twins. Oh, gods, the twins. She stumbled out of the rough cotton sheets, the cool air raising goosebumps on her arms. Still wearing the soft, worn t-shirt and light shorts she had collapsed in last night, she crossed the short distance to the door, her knees still stiff from the long drive. One of the twins stood there, holding a covered metal tray that radiated warmth and smelled like rich, dark coffee, salty bacon, and the sweet, almost jammy aroma of blueberries. He wore a heavy gray Henley that precisely matched the clear, intense color of his eyes. his dark hair still damp and slicked back, carrying the faint, clean scent of expensive soap. When he smiled at her, a slow, deep curve of his mouth, the mate bond flared so bright and hot in Kenna's chest that she had to grip the rough wood door frame to steady herself, feeling a dizzying rush of endorphins. "Morning," he said, his voice a low grind, rough with early morning. "Figured you might be hungry. It is a long drive from the hospital." Kenna's mouth watered immediately, a sharp physical reaction, though whether from the potent smell of the food or the overwhelming scent of the musky alpha standing before her, she could not say. "That is, thank you. You did not have to." "Yes, I did." He stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, occupying the small space entirely. The shift in temperature and energy was immediate. He set the heavy tray on the small pine table by the window with a soft clink. "You are here to help Mira. The least we can do is make sure you are fed." Kenna closed the door, listening to the solid thud of the latch. She was hyper-aware that she was barely dressed, that her hair was a tangled disaster sticking to the back of her neck, that this gorgeously intense alpha was breathing the same air in her confined space, and her wolf was practically purring deep in her throat, vibrating with satisfaction. "Which one are you?" He turned, and something flickered in his eyes, approval mixed with dry amusement. "Which one do you think I am? That is not fair, is not it?" He reached out and pulled back the cover on the tray, revealing perfectly scrambled eggs, the color of buttercups, crisp bacon glistening with grease, fresh cantaloupe and berries, and a blueberry muffin that was still steaming gently. "Coffee's black. I was not sure how you take it, so I brought cream and sugar. Black's perfect." Kenna moved closer, drawn by the smell and the heat radiating from the tray, but studying him carefully. She focused on the barely perceptible thin white scar that trailed just over the arch of his left eyebrow. That was the marker she would seen yesterday. Dane. His smile widened, a flash of white against his tan skin. "Very good. Most people cannot tell us apart for weeks. I am observant. Comes with medical training." She sat down at the small table, let a surface cool beneath her fingers, and Dane took the chair directly across from her, his presence utterly dominating the space. He watched her with an intensity that made her skin prickle and warm deliciously. "Should not you be doing alpha things? Running the pack? Dev's handling morning patrol. We split duties." Dane leaned back, his arms crossed over the thick weave of the Henley, and Kenna tried desperately not to notice how the fabric stretched tight across the heavy muscles of his chest and shoulders. "Besides, this is alpha business, making sure our guest is comfortable. Is that what I am? A guest? What else would you be?" Kenna met his eyes over the rim of the hot ceramic coffee cup. The bitter steam rose into her face, masking her sudden blush. "You tell me, you are the one who said your wolves recognized me." Dane was quiet for a long, heavy moment, his gaze unwavering, deep and searching. The air between them suddenly crackled. Then he leaned forward, elbows bracing on his knees, and the atmosphere thickened with something electric, raw, and undeniably male. "My wolf knows exactly what you are, Kenna. The question is whether you trust yours enough to figure it out." Her heart hammered a desperate rhythm against her ribs, a physical drumbeat of anxiety and excitement. "That is not an answer." "No," he agreed softly, the sound of his voice hitting her like a deep vibration. "It is not." They stared at each other, the mate bond pulling taut between them, a high-frequency wire vibrating from his chest to hers. Kenna wanted desperately to close the distance, wanted to feel the rough texture of his shirt under her palm, and see if the bond would clarify or intensify. But a deep-seated caution held her back, the dizzying memory of yesterday, of feeling the same impossible pull with both twins. Dane stood abruptly, the sudden movement shattering the tension. He was radiating coiled energy. "Eat. I will come get you in an hour to take you to Mira." "Dane." He paused at the door, his hand resting on the rough wooden frame, looking back at her with an expression she could not quite read, a blend of frustration and knowing patience. "Take your time, Kenna. Some things are worth being certain about." Then he was gone, and Kenna was alone with the cooling breakfast, and a wolf that would not stop issuing a low, frustrated whine deep in her core. An hour later, Kenna emerged from a steaming shower, feeling stripped of the morning's anxiety. Dressed in practical jeans and a soft, slightly worn green sweater, She felt marginally more in control. She would braided her hair tightly down her back, dabbed on minimal makeup to hide the violet shadows beneath her eyes, and gave herself a stern talking to about professional boundaries, breathing deeply to pull in the crisp, clean scent of the mountain air. She was here for Myra, not for impossibly attractive alpha twins who made her wolf lose its damn mind. Myra was awake when Kenna entered the medical cabin, looking slightly better than yesterday, but still far too pale, the skin around her eyes thin and translucent. The cabin smelled faintly of antiseptic, paper, and the warm, comforting scent of the pup's mother, who was reading to her from a thin picture book in a low, soothing murmur. Both looked up with immediate hope when Kenna approached. "Good morning," Kenna said warmly, injecting brightness into her voice. "How are we feeling today, Myra?" "Tired," the pup admitted, her voice thin and breathy. "But I did not have a bad dream last night. That is excellent news." Kenna set down her heavy leather bag and pulled out her stethoscope, the metal cool against her palm. "That means your wolf is already feeling a little safer. May I listen to your heart?" Myra nodded, and Kenna went through her examination. Vitals stable. The fever down slightly to 100.8 degrees. Improved, but not enough. She pressed her hand to Myra's small chest, the skin feeling a little clammy under her touch, letting her own wolf energy flow out again. A gentle, warm pulse, searching for the pup's frightened inner spirit. There, just barely a faint flicker of response, like a tiny bell ringing in the vast distance. Still buried, still afraid, but less deeply obscured than yesterday. "You're doing great," Kenna murmured, keeping her voice low and resonant. "Your wolf is starting to wake up. Will I be able to shift for the full moon?" Myra asked, her large green eyes wide and luminous with hope and fear, her scent turning sharp with anxiety. "That is 3 weeks away. If we work together every day, I think you would be running with the pack." Kenna squeezed her hand gently, feeling the delicate bones beneath her grip. "But you have to be brave, okay? Even when you are scared." "Like you?" Kenna blinked, surprised by the sudden, blunt question. The antiseptic scent of the cabin suddenly felt stronger. "Like me?" "You smell scared," Myra said with a child's devastating honesty. "But you came anyway. That is brave. Out of the mouths of babes." Kenna smiled, genuine and appreciative, despite the sting of being read so easily. "You are right. I'm a little scared. But being brave does not mean not being scared. It means doing the thing in a way." Myra considered this weighty concept, then nodded solemnly, settling back into her pillows. "I will try." They worked together for another hour, breathing exercises that focused on grounding the pup in her body, visualization techniques, and gentle energy work to coax Myra's wolf closer to the surface. By the time Kenna left, the pup was sleeping peacefully, her breath even, and her mother was crying silently, shaking tears of relief. Kenna stepped outside into the clear afternoon sunshine and found the other twin waiting for her, leaning against the rough bark of a massive pine tree. She knew immediately it was not Dane. Something about the way he held himself, looser, more relaxed, radiating ease rather than coiled intensity. And when he smiled at her, it was brighter, quicker, infused with genuine, playful mischief. "Devlin," she said. His dark eyebrows rose rapidly. "Impressive. Most people just guess. I do not guess. I observe." Kenna fell into step beside him as he started walking toward the distant open ground. Their footsteps crunched softly on the packed dirt path. "Dane brought me breakfast this morning." "I know, I told him to." Devlin's voice was casual, light, but Kenna caught the subtle undercurrent, a test maybe, or curiosity shimmering in his tone about her reaction to his brother. "Figured you would be hungry after yesterday." "You told him to?" "We coordinate. Comes with being twins." He glanced at her sideways, his gray eyes sparkling. "Did you enjoy it? The breakfast or the company?" "Both." Kenna chose her words carefully, feeling the pleasant warmth of the sun on her shoulders. The breakfast was delicious. The company was intense. Devlin laughed, the sound rich, genuine, and full of resonance. "That is Dane. He does not do anything halfway. When he focuses on something, it is complete." They would reach the edge of the training grounds, a massive expanse of hard-packed earth and worn grass, where pack members were sparring in both human and wolf form. The air here was vibrating, different from the quiet hospital cabin. raw, physical, primal, thick with a musky scent of exertion, wolf adrenaline, and ozone. Kenna's own wolf stirred again, a deep, hungry ache in her shoulders, wanting to stretch, to run, to prove herself. "You shift often?" Devlin asked, as if reading her internal restlessness. "Not as much as I would like. Hospital does not leave much time for runs." She watched two massive gray wolves circling each other, their snarls low, guttural sounds, their movements fluid and fiercely practiced. "Your pack is strong. We have to be." Valley Forge sits on the border of 3 territories. Strength is the only thing that keeps the peace. Devlin moved closer, their arms brushing lightly, and the mate bond flared again, different from Dane's concentrated heat. This felt like exhilarating static electricity, a rush of reckless energy. "You ever fight, Kenna? I'm a doctor. I heal, not hurt. But you can." It was not a question. It was a firm, knowing statement. "I can see it in how you move. You have got training." Kenna met his eyes, feeling the slight tension set in her jaw. "My father was a pack enforcer. He made sure I could defend myself. Smart man." Devlin's smile sharpened, turning predatory and exciting. "Spar with me." "What? Just a quick round." He gestured toward an empty patch of ground nearby, already stretching his neck. "I want to see how you move." This was insane. She was here for Mira, not to roll around on the dirt with an alpha, who was radiating heat and power, and who might or might not be her fated mate. But her wolf was already eager, straining at the leash, practically begging for the physical release and challenge. Kenna heard herself saying, "Fine, 1 round." The soft grass of the training grounds gave way to a patch of worn earth as they moved to an open space, and pack members, drawn by an unspoken signal, paused in their varied activities to watch. A collective hush fell, the air growing thick with anticipation. Great, an audience. Kenna felt the familiar prickle of eyes on her back, a slight tightening in her shoulders. Devlin did not hold back. He came at her fast, a blur of motion, a rush of displaced air, testing her reflexes with the raw power of an alpha. Kenna blocked on instinct, the jarring impact vibrating up her arm, a grunt escaping her lips. They moved together then, a fluid, ancient rhythm, strike, block, dodge, counter, and it felt less like a fight and more like a dangerous, intricate dance. She could feel his immense strength in every lunge, the sheer force behind his movements that she had to deflect, absorb, or evade. He was a solid wall of muscle, but she was quicker, her body a whipcord of lean agility. He anticipated her moves, his gray eyes flashing with intelligent awareness, but she adapted, shifting her weight, twisting away from a blow with a whisper of fabric, landing a precise counter. The soft thud of their feet on the hard-packed earth provided the only soundtrack to their silent battle. And the whole time, the mate bond hummed between them, a deep, resonant thrumming beneath her skin, electric and alive, a constant, vibrating current that pulled and connected them, even as they sparred. Finally, with a deceptive ease, Devlin swept her legs out from under her. Kenna went down with a surprised gasp, the ground rushing up to meet her with a soft thud. He followed rapidly, catching himself on his hands, hovering above her, his chest heaving. Both of them were breathing hard, the ragged intake of air loud in the sudden quiet. His eyes, bright with exhilaration, sparkled down at her. At his smile, a flash of white framed by the crinkle at the corners of his eyes, was pure, unadulterated satisfaction. The mate bond surged with warmth, a triumphant burst of energy. "You fight like a Luna," he said softly, his voice a low rumble. "I fight like someone who does not like losing." Kenna retorted, feeling the dust settle on her hair and clothes. "Same thing in a pack like ours." He pushed up, the rustle of his clothes a soft sound, and offered her a strong, outstretched hand. Kenna took it, her fingers closing around his. The contact sent a jolt, a current of warmth, and unmistakable sparks up her arm, making her breath catch. "You did good, Doc. Thanks, I think." She brushed gritty dirt off her jeans, the coarse fabric against her fingers, keenly aware of the pack members watching, their hushed whispers like a soft breeze through the trees. Was there a point to that, besides embarrassing me? No embarrassment. You held your own against an alpha. Devlin's expression softened then, the lines around his eyes easing, a gentle curve to his lips. The warmth in his gaze was palpable. I wanted to see if you belong here. You do. The words hit harder than his takedown had, landing with a surprising lightness in her chest, a sudden warmth spreading through her, making her breath catch. The mate bond gave a soft, happy thrum. Devlin, come on. I will walk you back to your cabin. You have got dirt in your hair. His thumb brushed lightly near her temple, sending a fresh shiver down her spine. They walked in comfortable silence, the soft crunch of their boots on the gravel path, the only sound. Kenna found herself relaxing around him, in a way she had not with Dane. The tension drained from her shoulders, loosening in her chest. Devlin's energy was different, a warm current, a gentle hum, less intense, more approachable. But the mate bond was still there, a constant, underlying thrum, a subtle magnetic pull, a sweet ache that was both comforting and confusing. At her cabin door, the familiar scent of pine from the wood, Devlin paused, his posture subtly shifting. Dane's possessive, you know. When he wants something, he does not share well. His voice was low, serious, and his eyes darkened slightly. Kenna's heart stuttered, a physical lurch in her chest. Are you warning me? No. Devlin's smile was gentle now, almost sad, the wistful curve of his lips, the sadness in his eyes unmistakable. I am telling you that when you figure out which of us is yours, the other one is going to be happy for you both. But that does not mean it will not hurt a little. The words carried a dull ache, a bittersweet tang that resonated with the mate bond's constant thrum. He left before she could respond, his retreating form disappearing into the twilight, leaving a profound silence in his wake. Kenna stood outside her cabin, the chill air prickling her skin, with her wolf howling in a raw, primal ache in her chest, and her mind spinning in a dizzying whirlwind of thoughts. Inside, the cooler air of the cabin was a comfort. She pulled out a notebook, its smooth paper a comforting texture, and the familiar scratch of her pen began to fill the page. Dane, intense, focused, brought breakfast, thoughtful. Some things are worth being certain about. Left eyebrow scar. Devlin, playful, relaxed, challenged her to spar. You fight like a Luna. Shows left canine when smiling. She stared the list, her eyes blurring slightly, a tight knot of frustration forming in her stomach. They were both perfect, both alpha. Both made her wolf sing, a deep, joyful vibration within her, a sense of rightness, now laced with confusion. How was she supposed to choose, when fate had apparently given her an impossible test? A weary sigh escaped her lips. Her phone buzzed with a sudden vibration against her thigh, a faint chime breaking the quiet, an unknown number. The screen lit up, stark white text against the dark. Inners at 7 in the main lodge. Both of us will be there. We do not bite. Usually. Kenna groaned, a sound of pure exasperation, and fell back on her bed, the soft give of the mattress beneath her, the faint scent of fresh linen filling her nostrils. 3 weeks until the full moon. 3 weeks to heal Myra, and figure out which twin was hers. Her wolf had never been good at patience. A restless energy, a low growl of impatience rumbling deep within her. Kenna spent the morning with Myra, coaxing the pup's wolf closer to the surface with gentle energy work and visualization exercises. The medical cabin, usually smelling faintly of antiseptic and sterile linens, held a new, comforting warmth today, a subtle hum of focus energy between Kenna's guiding hand and Myra's small, concentrating form. Kenna watched, her gaze soft but unwavering, as Myra's brow furrowed in concentration, her tiny fingers clenching and unclenching with effort. By noon, Myra had managed to flash her eyes amber for 3 full seconds, a vibrant, startling glimpse of raw power, accompanied by a faint, almost audible zing in the air, a breakthrough that had her mother sobbing with relief, the sound choked and joyful, and Kenna's own heart soaring with it for deep, expensive professional pride that warmed her to the core. You did so well, Kenna praised, her voice soft and full of affection, smoothing Myra's sweat-dampened, dark hair back from her forehead. The strands felt cool and damp beneath Kenna's fingers, clinging slightly to the pup's skin. Your wolf is remembering how to be brave. Will you teach me more tomorrow? Myra asked, her voice a hopeful whisper, her small, surprisingly strong hand gripping Kenna's with an urgent squeeze. Kenna squeezed back, her grip firm and reassuring. "Every day until you are completely better, I promise." The words felt solid, a vow etched in the quiet of the cabin. She left the medical cabin feeling lighter than she had since arriving at Valley Forge. The crisp, clean autumn air, tinged with the scent of pine and damp earth, felt invigorating against her face after the enclosed warmth of the cabin. Buoyant spring had entered her step, a physical lightness in her chest, as if a great weight had been momentarily lifted. This was what she was good at: healing, helping, making a difference, not obsessing over impossible alpha twins and fate's cruel sense of humor. That thought, however, was already a familiar, unwelcome hum beneath her newfound contentment. Her phone buzzed, vibrating with a sudden, startling insistence against her hip. She pulled it out, the screen a sharp white light momentarily blinding her in the dimming afternoon. The message read, "Perimeter walk in 20 minutes. I want to show you the territory." Kenna stared at the text. Dane or Devlin? A nervous flutter started in her stomach, her pulse quickening its rhythm. The mate bond, even from a distance, seemed to prickle with a fresh awareness. She texted back, her fingers tapping quickly on the cold glass screen. "Which twin am I walking with?" The response came immediately, a new vibration in her hand. "Does it matter?" Kenna growled, a low, frustrated sound that rumbled in her throat, aimed squarely at the inanimate device. Yes, it mattered. Mattered because her heart raced differently, a sharp, electrifying zing, thinking it might be Dane, versus the deep, grounding thrum if it were Devlin. It mattered because she was trying to figure out which twin made her soul sing versus which twin made her wolf sing, and she was beginning to suspect they were not the same thing. Her wolf, coiled tightly in her chest, let out a low, confused whine, caught between two powerful, conflicting currents of the bond. Fine. She would go. She would observe. She would be scientific about this, her jaw tightening with a forced resolve. 20 minutes later, one of the twins met her at the edge of the forest. The cool, biting edge of the autumn air whispered past her ears, gently rustling the dry leaves underfoot. He wore a dark jacket against the chill, the crisp fabric absorbing the fading light, his hands shoved casually in his pockets. And when he smiled at her, a slow, gentle curve of his lips, Kenna's breath caught, a sudden sharp hitch in her chest. The mate bond pulsed, a strong, undeniable thrum. Her gaze snagged instantly on the faint pale line just above his left eyebrow. The scar, left eyebrow. Dane. A wave of warmth washed over her, a strange mix of relief and eager anticipation, and the distinct scent of pine and rich earth mixed with something uniquely his, flooded her senses, making her wolf release a satisfied, purring rumble. "Ready?" he asked, his voice a low, resonant timbre that seemed to vibrate deep in her chest. "For what exactly?" she asked, her voice slightly breathless, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "To see what you are getting yourself into." Dane started walking into the forest, his stride long and confident, and Kenna followed, the crisp crunch and rustle of dry leaves under their boots filling the quiet. Dappled sunlight filtered through the thinning canopy, painting shifting patterns of gold and crimson on the forest floor. The damp, rich smell of decaying foliage and dark soil deepened around them. Valley Forge territory runs 15 miles in every direction from the main lodge. We have got rivers, caves, and hunting grounds. It is wild out here. "I grew up in pack territory," Kenna said, a quiet note of pride in her voice, a slight lift of her chin. "Wild does not scare me. No, I do not think much scares you." Dane glanced at her, the soft, appreciative warmth in his gaze sending a fleeting shiver down her spine. A gentle smile played on his lips, the almost imperceptible softening of his face. His voice, deeper now, was laced with genuine admiration. "Mara's mother told me about this morning." 3 seconds of amber eyes. "That is real progress. She is a fighter." Just needed someone to remind her wolf of that. Her voice was a little softer now, tinged with affection for the pup. They walked in silence for a while, the forest thick around them. The only sounds were the soft thud of their footsteps on the damp earth and the rustle of leaves high above. Kenna found herself relaxing into the rhythm of it, her muscles unclenching, a deep sigh of contentment wanting to escape. Dane did not fill the quiet with unnecessary words. He just existed beside her, his powerful presence a quiet, solid anchor, and her wolf settled into a deep, contented purr, a profound sense of peace and rightness, in a way it had not since she would arrived. The mate bond glowed, a warm, steady hum. "Can I ask you something?" Kenna said finally, her voice a soft breaking of the comfortable quiet, a slight tension returning to her shoulders. "Anything," he replied, his eyes turning to her, a hint of curiosity in his tone. "Why are you and Devlin doing this? The mystery in not telling me which one is my mate. You clearly know." She stopped walking, turning to face him fully, her arms lightly crossed, her gaze fixed on him, searching for answers. Dane stopped walking, pivoting to face her squarely. They would reach a clearing where sunlight burst through the canopy, dappling everything in shifting gold and shadow, painting long, soft patterns on the forest floor. His gray eyes, the tiny, deep blue flecks shimmering within their depths, studied her with an arresting intensity that made her skin warm, a flush of heat creeping up her neck and spreading across her cheeks. The rich scent of decaying leaves and sun-warmed earth intensified around them. "Because certainty matters," he said quietly, his voice a low, serious murmur that carried weight. "The mate bond is powerful, Kenna. It can make you feel things that are not real, want things you would not normally want. We have seen it happen. Wolves who claim each other because the bond says so, only to realize years later they never actually chose each other. But fate does not make mistakes." Her voice was a soft, almost desperate whisper, a slight shake of her head. "Fate gives you a compatible partner. It does not guarantee happiness." Dane took a deliberate step closer, the soft thump of his boot on the earth closing the distance between them. Kenna's heart hammered, a sudden frantic drumbeat against her ribs. "In Fern's eye, we have watched our parents live in a bond that was fated but not happy. They were compatible on paper, but they never really chose each other. Just went through the motions because the bond said they should." A shadow briefly crossed his features, and his scent, pine and earth, and something uniquely him, grew stronger, more potent. Anna's chest tightened, a sudden constriction that stole her breath. "I'm sorry. Do not be. It taught us something important." He took another step closer, the almost imperceptible scrape of his boot on the forest floor. They were almost touching now, close enough that Kenna could clearly see the tiny, deep blue flecks shimmering within the gray of his irises, like distant galaxies. His intoxicating scent, pine, damp earth, and that utterly singular, musky aroma of Dane filled her nostrils, making her head swim. His voice, now a low, gravelly timbre laden with profound sincerity, resonated deep within her. "When we find our mates, we want them to choose us, not the bond. Us." Her heart pounded a frantic rhythm, the mate bond surging, pulling her closer, dizzying her with a mix of vulnerability and intense awareness. "That is what this is? A test?" Her voice was a breathless whisper, a question heavy with meaning. "It is a chance." Dane's voice dropped lower, a soft, seductive murmur, a rich, deep tone that seemed to wrap around her, drawing her in. The warmth of his breath ghosted her cheek as he leaned even closer. The raw honesty in his eyes was almost painful. "A chance for you to know, beyond any doubt, that you want this, want him, whichever one of us he is." Her wolf was vibrating with anticipation, a sweet ache in her chest. Kenna's breath shook, a ragged catch in her throat. "And if I cannot tell the difference, then maybe you are not ready." Or maybe, his hand came up slow and deliberate, his fingertips brushing her jaw with devastating gentleness. The feather light, almost unbearable pressure against her skin, sent tiny sparks of electricity through her, making her scalp tingle, her entire body humming. His voice, a soft, intimate rumble, carried a knowing certainty. "Maybe you are looking for differences when you should be feeling for resonance." The touch sent a white-hot current slipping through her entire body. Her wolf surged forward, a powerful instinctual demand for more, wanting everything, and Kenna swayed toward him without conscious thought, drawn by an irresistible magnetic pull. The sudden, overwhelming scent of him enveloped her. Dane's other hand settled on her waist, a firm, warm pressure that was both a steadying anchor and an igniter of new heat, pulling her subtly closer. His eyes darkened, turning almost black with primal desire, reflecting the golden light of the clearing. The mate bond felt like a roaring fire, overwhelming her senses and her will. "Kenna," he murmured, the low, husky sound of her name on his lips like a prayer, a deep vibration that seemed to pluck at the very strings of her soul. "This is insane," she whispered, her voice wavering, her lips feeling soft and slightly parted, but she did not pull away. "Probably." His thumb traced her cheekbone, then the line of her jaw, then the sensitive corner of her mouth, each feather-light brush a tiny spark that erupted into warmth. The rough pad of his thumb against her skin sent shivers through her. His voice, close and intimate, was a soft rumble against her ear, but fate rarely makes sense. Her wolf was panting with raw desire. He was going to kiss her. She could see it in the infinitesimal shift of his gaze, focusing intently on her mouth, feeling it in the subtle flex of muscles as his hand tightened on her waist, increasing the pressure just slightly. The rush of blood to her ears was a roaring sound, subsuming all others. The faint, sweet taste of his breath was on her lips. The mate bond was screaming yes, her wolf was howling yes, and even her logical doctor brain was considering yes. But something, a tiny, cold sliver of doubt, made her hesitate. Kenna's hand came up, pressing gently against his chest. She felt the soft, yielding warmth of his jacket fabric against her palm, the solid, strong thrum of his heartbeat beneath it, faster than usual. "Wait." Her voice was a small, fragile sound, yet firm, a desperate plea for control. Dane froze immediately, his entire body going still, the cessation of his breath near her face. His gray eyes, now filled with a flash of concern, a ripple of confusion, searched hers with intense, piercing directness. "What is wrong?" he asked, his voice a tight, low query. "I need to be sure." The words tumbled out, raw and trembling, a desperate and honest rush. The rapid pulse thrummed in her own neck, her eyes wide and earnest, pleaded for understanding. "I need to be sure it is you, Dane, not just because you are here, and you are touching me, and the bond is pulling. I need to know that when I kiss you, it is because you are mine. Not because I am confused or overwhelmed or caught up in the moment." Her wolf, initially frustrated, then settled into a quiet hum of agreement, recognizing the truth in her words. She expected frustration, maybe even hurt. Instead, Dane's expression softened, the lines around his eyes easing, his lips curving gently upward into something that looked like profound pride. The unexpected gentleness in his gaze was a balm to her agitated spirit. "That," he said quietly, his voice a soft, reverent murmur, tinged with admiration and deep conviction, "is exactly why you are going to make an incredible Luna." A wave of validation washed over her, and her wolf puffed up with immense pride. "Dane," Kenna gasped, a soft, startled protest forming on her lips. "No, listen to me." His hand slid from her face to cradle the back of her neck, the touch gentle but grounding, firm and reassuring. His fingers splayed, a touch that was both possessive and infinitely tender, a powerful anchor. "You could have kissed me just now. The bond would have made it easy, would have felt amazing. But you stopped because you want to do the right thing, because you respect yourself and this process enough to be certain." His forehead touched hers, skin to skin, warm and solid, and Kenna's eyes fluttered closed, a soft sigh escaping her lips. The world narrowed to his scent, his warmth, his voice, a low, steady rumble against her skull, vibrating through her bones. His breath, warm and even, mingled with hers. "That is not a weakness, Kenna. That is a strength, and it is exactly what I need in a mate." The mate bond settled into a deep, unwavering hum of absolute certainty and rightness, a profound comfort. Tears pricked her eyes, hot and stinging behind her closed lids. "This is so hard, I know, but some things are worth the difficulty." He pressed a kiss to her forehead, chaste, sweet, promise-filled, a feather-like touch, brief but profound, carrying the faint, clean taste of his skin. His voice, a gentle murmur, was a deep, comforting balm. "Take your time. I'm not going anywhere." The mate bond pulsed with a gentle, patient love. "Found you both." A new voice, deep and resonant, cut through their intimate bubble, startling Kenna. The rustle of nearby leaves announced an approaching presence. Kenna jerked back from Dane, a sharp, involuntary recoil, her heart leaping into her throat, hammering against her ribs with frantic thumps. Her cheeks burned crimson with embarrassment. Devlin stood at the edge of the clearing, a mirror image of Dane in height and build, leaning against a tree with his arms crossed. His dark jacket blended with the shadows of the trunk, his posture deceptively casual, and an expression that was equal parts knowing and amused played on his lips, a subtle glint of humor in his identical gray eyes. His unique scent, less earthy than Dane's, more crisp and energetic, wafted subtly on the breeze, stirring Kenna's wolf with a fresh, confusing jolt. The mate bond felt like it split in two, pulling in opposite directions, a dizzying sensation. "If," Dane said, his voice steady despite still having his hand on Kenna's waist, a lingering warmth and solid pressure. A hint of playful exasperation tinged his tone. "Excellent timing as always." "I try." Devlin pushed off the tree, the soft thud of his shoulder leaving the bark, walking toward them with that loose, easy grace that was so distinctly his footsteps light on the leaves, with a sharp, exhilarating prickle as his piercing gray eyes locked with Kenna's, a fleeting spark of shared intelligence passing between them, a silent acknowledgement. "Myra's asking for you, Doc," said her. "Wolf wants to try surfacing again." Kenna seized the excuse gratefully, moving swiftly, stepping fully away from Dane's lingering warmth. The rustle of her jacket sounded loud in the quiet. "I should go. Thank you for the walk." Her voice was a little too bright, a little too quick, a desperate attempt at normalcy. "Anytime," Dane said, his voice low and resonant, carrying a promise that vibrated through her, sending a delicious shiver down her spine, despite the cool air. She practically fled the clearing, the scuffing sound of her boots on the leaves accompanying her hasty retreat, her face burning, and her wolf whining with frustrated longing. Behind her, she heard Devlin's low voice. "Almost kissed her, huh?" "Almost," Dane confirmed, his voice quiet, almost wistful, but she stopped it. Kenna heard Devlin's observational tone. "Yeah." Dane's response was a soft, almost imperceptible sigh, a brief, pregnant silence, then Devlin's laugh, a rich, warm sound that echoed through the trees, deep with unmistakable affection. "She is perfect for you, brother." Kenna did not hear Dane's response. She was already halfway back to the medical cabin, the blur of trees passing quickly, the frantic, irregular beat of her heart resounding in her ears, her mind spinning, a tumultuous storm of conflicting emotions. The scent of pine and earth now mingled with the phantom scent of both twins, a confusing, potent mix, and her wolf was still in a state of agitated confusion and intense longing, the mate bond a hot, throbbing ache. That evening, after another successful session with Myra, the pup had managed to shift her hands into partial paws, a small, furry transformation that delighted Kenna. She found both twins waiting outside the medical cabin. The soft, fading light of dusk painted the world in hues of bruised purple and deep blue, the air growing colder, carrying the faint scent of wood smoke. They stood side by side, mirror images in the fading light, their forms distinct even in the gloom, and Kenna's wolf stirred with a profound, wrenching confusion, letting out a soft, low whine. The mate bond felt like two powerful magnets, pulling her intensely towards both, a dizzying mix of desire and uncertainty. "Walk with us," Dane said, his voice deep and calm, cutting through the twilight hush, an unspoken invitation that tugged at her very soul. It was not a request, not quite, but Kenna found herself nodding. They walked to a small gazebo near the training grounds, the three of them sitting on the benches as the compound settled into evening routines around them. "You are doing well with Myra," Devlin said. "Her parents are thrilled. She is a remarkable kid. Strong wolf, just needed help remembering it." Kenna looked between them. "But you did not bring me here to talk about Myra." The twins exchanged one of their silent looks, communicating in that eerie twin way, and then Dane spoke. "We need to tell you something about Myra's condition." Kenna's doctor instincts flared. "What about it?" "The dream she is having, the bad man with red eyes. They are not just nightmares," Devlin said carefully. "We think someone's been trying to poison her, spiritually. Not physically. What? Kenna's blood went cold. Who would do that to a pup? We do not know yet, but we have had scouts reporting rogue wolf activity on our borders. Someone who does not like that Valley Forge is thriving. Dane's jaw tightened. Myra's father is our best tracker. Hurting his daughter sends a message. Then we need to protect her. Ward the medical cabin. Set guards. Already done, Devlin assured her. But there is something else. A way to make her wolf strong enough to resist any future attacks. What? Moon petal, Dane said. It is a rare herb that only grows in caves near silver deposits. A Reboyams normally cannot get near it because of the silver, but if prepared correctly, moon petal can strengthen a wolf's spiritual core, make them resistant to psychic attacks. Kenna's mind raced. I have read about moon petal in the old medical texts, but I have never seen it used. The risk of silver poisoning is high, Devlin finished, but you are good enough to prepare it safely. We know you are, and we know where to find it, Dane added. There is a cave system about 10 miles north. Moon petal arose there during the full moon cycle, which starts tomorrow night, Kenna realized. Both twins nodded. So we will go tomorrow, all three of us. Dane's eyes met hers, steady and We get the moon petal, you prepare it, and we make sure Mira never has to be afraid again. Kenna looked between them, these two impossible, identical alphas, who were both willing to risk silver exposure for a sick pup, who tested her not to be cruel, but to ensure real choice. Who wanted her to be certain, because they understood that certainty was the foundation of everything. Okay, she said, tomorrow night. We get the moon petal. Devlin grinned. Pack runs under the full moon. Should be fun. With silver deposits nearby, that is your definition of fun. When you are with us. Dane's smile was slow, devastating. Yeah, it is. And despite everything, the confusion, the uncertainty, the impossible choice ahead of her, Kenna found herself smiling back. The full moon rose over Valley Forge like a great, luminous silver coin, casting long, stark shadows across the sleeping landscape. Kenna's wolf pulsed with a deep, ancient anticipation, a low guttural growl vibrating in her chest. She stood at the edge of the whispering forest with the twins, the cool night air prickling her exposed skin. Around them, the rustle of leaves accompanied the murmurs of other pack members, their forms shifting with fluid grace from human to wolf, muscles rippling and thick fur erupting as they melted into the dark embrace of the trees. The energy in the glade was electric, primal, a thrumming beat against her bones. Kenna's skin tightened with the eager prickle of her own transformation, the yearning to change, to run, to taste the wild freedom of the night. How long has it been? Dane asked quietly, his voice a low rumble beside her, and she knew he could sense the desperate eagerness radiating from her wolf. 6 months, Kenna admitted, the word tasting bitter on her tongue. Maybe longer. The hospital does not leave much time for runs, and running alone in the city is dangerous. Devlin made a disapproving sound, a low huff of air. 6 months. No wonder your wolf is going crazy. Well, tonight she gets to run. Dane started stripping off his shirt, unself-conscious under the moonlight. The whispered sigh of fabric preceded the cool air hitting his warm skin, and Kenna's mouth went dry at the sight of muscle and skin, sculpted by shadows and silver light. With the pack, the way it is supposed to be, Devlin was already stepping out of his jeans, equally unbothered by nudity. The soft thump of denim on damp earth was barely audible. Try to keep up, Doc. Kenna turned away to undress, giving them privacy and taking some for herself, though she could feel the intense, almost tangible pressure of both sets of eyes on her back. The cool air on her bare skin sent a faint blush warming her cheeks, but her wolf did not care about modesty. It cared about running, hunting, being wild under the benevolent gaze of the moon. The deep yearning thrummed through her. The shift took her fast, a dizzying rush as her wolf surged forward with overwhelming relief and pure, unadulterated joy. Bone reformed with a painful crackle and groan, muscles lengthened and stretched with an exquisite pull, and then, suddenly, she was on 4 legs. World snapped into sharper focus, brighter, alive, with a sudden overwhelming rush of earthy scents, damp soil, pine needles, distant animal musk, and myriad sounds, from the whisper of a distant breeze to the scurry of unseen creatures. The rough texture of the ground was cool and firm under her newly formed pads. Two massive wolves stood where the twins had been, identical even in wolf form, their dark fur sleek and shining under the moonlight, their powerful builds radiating raw strength. But when Kenna breathed in their scents, a deep, instinctual inhale, she caught subtle differences. One smelled like crisp pine and clean morning rain, the other like warm cedar and wild night wind. She would have to remember that, learn them not just by sight, but by scent, by instinct, by feel. The twin on her left, pine and rain. Dane lowered his head. Soft brush of cool, damp fur against her muzzle. The gentle pressure of his nose was a greeting, an acknowledgement, a profound sense of pack. The twin on her right, cedar and wind, Devlin, bumped his shoulder against hers playfully, a solid warm impact that rippled through her fur. He nipped lightly at her ear, a gleam in his dark eyes. Then they were running. Oh gods, the running. Kenna's wolf sang with it, a deep, vibrating hum of pure joy, the sheer exhilaration of movement, speed and freedom. She would forgotten what this felt like, the powerful spring in her legs, the rhythmic thud-thud-thud of her pads hitting the cool earth, the rush of night air whipping through her thick fur, the brilliant silver moon a constant companion overhead. The twins ran on either side of her, matching her pace easily but not pushing, letting her find her rhythm, their steady presence a reassuring warmth. The forest blurred around them, a fleeting canvas of dark trunks and whispering leaves. Other pack members joined their run, wolves of all sizes flowing through the trees like a shimmering river of fur and fang. Kenna felt the pack bonds humming, a deep resonant thrum, radiating through her very bones, connecting her to this whole living organism of wolves working together, protecting each other. Dane stayed closer on her right, his larger, warmer body a constant presence between her and the deeper forest, protective, she realized. Even in wolf form he was guarding her, and her wolf felt a profound comfort and instinctive trust from his proximity. Devlin ranged wider on her left, darting ahead and circling back with swift, silent movements, playful and energetic. He nipped at her heels once, a testing, playful bite, and Kenna nipped back, making him huff with a low, throaty sound of amusement. They ran for miles, the pack gradually spreading out, until it was just the three of them, two alphas and their, what? Guessed, future Luna. Kenna's wolf had opinions, a warm ache of longing in her chest, kept pressing toward Dane, kept wanting to run closer to him specifically. But when Devlin howled, a pure, wild sound that ripped through the night air and sent shivers down her spine, Kenna's wolf answered without thinking, a raw, instinctual cry tearing from her own throat. The cave system appeared after an hour of running, dark, jagged openings yawning in a rocky hillside. A damp, cool draft wafted from within, carrying a new, alarming scent. The scent of silver hit immediately, acrid, burning, utterly wrong. Kenna's wolf recoiled instinctively, a violent shiver racking her body, every instinct screaming to run the other direction, her muscles tensing, ready to bolt. Dane shifted first, his human form emerging from wolf with practiced ease, the soft crackle of bones and smooth transition of fur to skin. The visible tautness in his shoulders, the strained quality of his voice, betrayed his discomfort. The silver deposits are deep in the caves. We will not get close enough for real damage, but it will be uncomfortable. Kenna shifted back, her skin still tingling with the residual joy of the run, a pleasant ache in her muscles. The cool air on her bare skin felt fresh after the heat of her wolf form. How do you know the moon petal is here? Our father brought us here once, years ago. Devlin said, human again, pointing with a slight tremor in his hand to a specific, shadowed cave entrance. He showed us where it grows, said someday we might need it to protect our pack. The cool stone beneath his fingertips seemed to absorb the faint light. Smart man. He had his moments. Dane handed her a flashlight from a rough canvas pack he would stashed earlier. The cold, smooth metal felt solid in her palm, and she clicked it on, a beam of bright light cutting the gloom. The moon petal grows about 50 feet in, white flowers with silver veins. They only bloom under the full moon. They entered the cave together, and the silver scent grew stronger with each step, a metallic bite that assaulted her nostrils, causing a crawling sensation across her skin. The encroaching cold and dampness of the cave air pressed in. Kenna's skin prickled uncomfortably, her wolf whining, a low, guttural rumbled deep in her chest, pressing back against the encroaching toxicity. The twins were clearly affected too. Dane's jaw was tight, a visible tautness in his facial muscles, and Devlin's hands had formed white-knuckled fists. "There," Kenna said, her voice a little strained, spotting the pale, ethereal glow deeper in the cavern. The moon petal was breathtakingly beautiful, delicate white flowers growing impossibly from bare, rough rock, their paper-thin petals traced with lines that looked like liquid silver. They pulsed gently with light as breathing, a soft, mesmerizing throb in the gloom. A faint, sweet, earthy scent mingled strangely with the acrid silver. "How many do we need?" Ain asked, his voice rough with effort. 3 flowers for Mira's treatment, 3 more for preservation in case we need them later." Kenna knelt carefully beside the plants, the chill of the damp cave floor seeping into her knees. She pulled a small knife from her pocket. The cold, smooth metal glinted, its sharp edge reflecting the moon petal's light. "I have to cut them precisely. If I damage the root system, the silver in the veins will leak and poison the whole plant." She worked slowly, methodically, ignoring the insistent, stinging burn across her exposed skin, the searing sensation in her nostrils from the silver proximity. Each cut had to be exact, a faint whisper as she severed the stem without crushing it, preserving the flower's delicate structure. The twins watched in absolute silence, their presence a steady, grounding warmth behind her, the palpable tension in the air almost a physical weight. 6 perfect flowers. Kenna wrapped them carefully in a soft, treated cloth that smelled faintly of neutralizing herbs, then stood, relief loosening the tension in her muscles. "Got them. Let us get out of here before the silver does real damage." The urgency was clear in her voice. They burst from the cave into the moonlight, all 3 breathing hard, ragged gasps for the clean, damp scent of the forest washing over them. Sudden warmth of the night air on their faces was a welcome balm. Kenna's hands were shaking slightly, a fine tremor in her fingertips, her wolf exhausted from fighting the silver exposure, but she would done it. A surge of fierce, tired satisfaction filled her. She had what Moira needed. "That was incredible," Devlin said, staring at her with open admiration, a genuine wonder in his voice, the intense heat of his gaze. "You did not even hesitate. Armin needs this." Hesitation does not help sick patients. Kenna looked at the wrapped flowers, the gentle rustle of the cloth in her hands, then at the twins, her gaze earnest and direct. "Thank you for bringing me here, for trusting me with this." Dane's hand found her shoulder, warm and grounding, the solid, comforting weight of his palm, radiating warmth into her. A deep, resonant rumble in his chest vibrated through her, a sound she felt more than heard. "We trust you with a lot more than this." The weight of that statement settled over her, a profound sense of belonging and peace warming her chest, and Kenna's wolf hummed with contentment, a soft purr. They shifted, the familiar crackle of bones a sound of pure liberation, and ran back to Valley Forge under the moon, Kenna's wolf staying close to Dane's the entire way, the soft brush of their fur, the shared rhythm of their pounding paws. Morning came too early. The first gray light filtered through her cabin window, revealing the lingering ache of sleep deprivation in her bones. Kenna woke exhausted but determined, the moon petal flowers sitting safely in her cabin's small refrigerator, their vibrant, almost luminous white visible through the clear container. She would already planned the preparation process internally, complex, delicate work that would take most of the day, a mental hum of detailed steps. By the time she reached the medical cabin, a faint scent of wood smoke and damp earth in the cool morning air, both twins were waiting, their strong silhouettes framed in the doorway, a quiet anticipation in their stance. "Thought you might need help," Dane said, a low rumble in his voice, a hint of concern in his steady gaze. "Or moral support," Devlin added, the easy warmth in his tone, a reassuring smile. "Either way, we are here." Kenna set up her workspace with precise care. The smooth, cool surface of the clean countertop reflected the morning light as she arranged glass beakers and sterile tools with quiet clinking sounds. The moon petal preparation required perfect conditions, Specific temperature, exact measurements, careful timing. One mistake could turn medicine into poison. The palpable tension of the task settled in the air. First, I need to separate the petals from the stems, she explained, pulling on latex gloves. The faint squeak of the material as it stretched over her hands, its crisp, clean scent, accompanied the calm, deliberate tone of her voice. The petals contain the healing compounds. Stems have higher silver concentration and need to be handled separately. She worked with tweezers and a magnifying glass, the twins watching, their unwavering gazes a heavy presence. The glint of light on the magnifying glass illuminated her hands as she carefully plucked each petal. Despite her exhaustion, a minute tremor in her usually solid hands was almost imperceptible, offset by the precise, fluid grace of her practiced movements. The soft, barely audible rustle as a petal separated filled the quiet cabin. The silver veins in the petals are what make this work, Kenna continued, falling into a familiar teaching mode, her voice clear and measured. The faint, almost imperceptible shimmer of the silver lines within the delicate white petals caught the light. Silver is toxic to werewolves, but in trace amounts combined with the moon petal's natural compounds, it creates a spiritual fortifier. It is like a vaccine. Exposure to a small amount of the thing that hurts us makes us stronger against it. How did you learn this? Ain asked, fascination clear in the low, rich timbre of his voice, a slight widening of his eyes showing an almost childlike wonder. Medical text from the 1800s. Most modern werewolf doctors do not bother with the old remedies anymore. Too risky, too complicated, but sometimes the old ways are better. She smiled slightly, a weary but warm curve of her lips. My mentor at the hospital was old school, taught me that just because something is difficult does not mean it is not worth doing. She ground the petals in a mortar with distilled water, the faint scraping sound of the pestle against the rough ceramic creating a pale silvery paste, cool and viscous to the touch, with a faint, pearlescent sheen. Then came the delicate part, heating it to exactly 156 degrees Fahrenheit, no higher or lower. A soft hiss from the Bunsen burner, while adding drops of lavender oil to neutralize the silver's toxicity. The subtle, calming aroma of lavender blossomed in the air, cleanly cutting through the faint metallic tang. The twins watched in profound silence as she worked, the heavy, almost palpable weight of their focused gazes wrapping around Kenna like a physical touch. This was what she was good at. This was who she was, beyond the mate bond confusion, a healer, a doctor, someone who could do impossible things to save her patients. A deep resonant hum of purpose and certainty settled within her chest, pushing away the softer, confusing emotions of the bond. The air to the small, makeshift lab hummed with focused energy, thick with the faint, sweet and metallic scent of the raw moon petal flowers. Temperature's perfect, she murmured, her voice a low, focused thread, watching the mercury line stabilize precisely in the thermometer. The bubbling liquid in the beaker gave off a subtle, earthy steam. Now it needs to simmer for exactly 9 minutes while I add the neutralizing compound drop by drop. Her hand was steady, a precision instrument, as she counted drops. 1, 2, 3. Each clear, viscous sphere detached cleanly from the glass dropper, clinking softly into the simmering concoction. As the third drop dissolved, the mixture began to glow faintly, an ethereal, internal luminescence, the same soft, almost painful violet blue light the flowers had held deep within the cave. Is it supposed to do that? Devlin asked, his low voice a rumble of intense curiosity, leaning slightly closer. If I am doing it right, yes, the glow means the compounds are binding correctly. Kenna kept counting, her gaze unwavering, kept adding drops with meticulous precision. The glow deepened with each addition, becoming a steady, self-contained pulse, like a captured heartbeat. 17, 18, 19. At exactly 23 drops, the glow stabilized into a steady, rhythmic throb, a soft internal light that painted the inner surface of the beaker. Perfect, Kenna breathed, a soft exhalation of relief. Now it simmers. She set a small digital timer, its display a sharp orange, then finally looked up at the twins. They were staring at her, her wide, watchful eyes holding such awe she felt a warm, unexpected flush spread across her cheeks, like she would just perform true magic. Her inner wolf preened, basking in their unspoken admiration. "What?" she asked, her voice light with a hint of shyness. "You are brilliant," Dane said simply, his deep voice resonant with sincerity. "Truly brilliant. It is just chemistry and technique," she began, small self-conscious gesture with her hand. "No." Dane moved closer, his form solid and assured, his familiar scent of cedar and damp earth growing stronger, wrapping around her. His eyes, dark and piercing, held hers with intense conviction. "This is why you are the best in your field. This is why Mira's parents called you specifically. You do not just know the medicine, you understand it, you respect it." A shiver of pleasure, sharp and sweet, ran through her at his praise, connecting directly to her wolf. The mate bond thrummed, pulling her closer, a profound sense of being utterly seen and validated by him. Kenna's cheeks warmed further, a deep blush rising. "I just want to help." "You do more than help," Devlin said quietly, his voice soft but unwavering, his gaze steady and warm, complementing Dane's intensity. "You heal. There is a difference." The dual affirmation settled a deep, comforting warmth in her chest, a sense of belonging she had not realized she craved. The timer chimed, a soft, precise ping. Kenna turned back to her work, carefully straining the now cooling mixture through fine cheesecloth. The resulting liquid was a pale, shimmering silver, luminescent and beautiful, catching the ambient light like liquid moonlight. Its clean, slightly metallic, and sweet herbal scent was potent. She divided it into 2 small, sterile glass vials, their surfaces cool to her touch, one for Mira's immediate treatment, one for preservation. "This needs to be administered in 3 doses over 3 days, Kenna explained, her voice resuming its calm, professional tone. "The first dose will be the hardest on her system. She will feel sick, possibly feverish, but by the 3rd dose, her wolf should be strong enough to resist any future psychic attacks." She labeled the vials with precise, neat handwriting, the ink a dark contrast on the pale labels. Then she prepared the preservation solution for the remaining 3 flowers. Glycerin, alcohol, and a suspension agent she would mix herself, the sharp tang of alcohol mingling with the viscous sweetness of the glycerin. The vivid, almost painfully purple moon petal flowers, still radiating their faint glow, would stay potent for up to a year if stored correctly. "In case anyone else needs them," she said, sealing the preservation jar with a tight click, "or in case Mira needs a booster dose." Dane and Devlin exchanged a look, one of those swift, knowing, silent twin communications. Then both of them smiled, the crinkling at the corners of their eyes synchronized. A ripple of warm anticipation, a sense of shared understanding, passed through her via the bond. "What?" Kenna asked again, her brow furrowing slightly at their shared amusement. "Just realizing our pack is very lucky you came here," Dane said, his voice soft with genuine pleasure. "Even if it was just for Mira," Devlin added, a hopeful undertone in his voice. "Though we are hoping you will stay for other reasons too." A sudden, delightful warmth flooded her chest, quickening her pulse, a thrilling sense of possibility making her inner wolf stir, intrigued. Kenna's heart fluttered, a rapid beat against her ribs, but she forced herself to focus, her gaze still fixed on the vials. "Let us see if this works first, then we can talk about staying." Mira took the first dose like a champion, barely flinching at the sharp, metallic sweet taste. Kenna stayed with her for hours afterward, monitoring her vitals, the soft hum of medical equipment her constant companion, as the moon petal worked through her system. The long, slow drag of time was punctuated by Kenna's growing weariness and anxious anticipation. The pup's fever spiked to 103, her small body radiating heat, and she whimpered in her sleep, a faint, pained sound. Her parents hovered anxiously, their faces pale and tense, but Kenna kept her voice calm and steady, a soothing balm against their rising panic. "This is normal. Her wolf is fighting the medicine because it contains silver. But once her wolf realizes the medicine is helping, not hurting, the fever will break." At midnight, Mira's eyes flashed amber and held for 10 full seconds. a sudden, startling brilliance like molten honey, overriding the normal brown, filling the quiet room with a tangible sense of awakening power. At 2 in the morning, she shifted her hands into small furred paws and back again, a blurred, rapid transformation, a testament to her returning strength. At dawn, the pale light filtering through the cabin window, her fever broke, and she sat up, her eyes clear and bright, asking for breakfast, her voice strong and clear. Kenna sagged with relief, exhaustion hitting her like a physical wave, leaving her limbs heavy and her back aching. She would have been awake for nearly 24 hours, but Mira was better. Visibly, dramatically better, a wave of warmth spreading through Kenna's veins. "You did it," Mira's mother sobbed, hugging Kenna hard enough to hurt, the wetness of tears soaking her shoulder. "You saved her. We are not done yet. 2 more doses." But Kenna was smiling, her tired eyes crinkling at the corners, the deep professional satisfaction mixing perfectly with personal joy. "She is going to be fine." She stumbled out of the warm, stuffy medical cabin, her steps wobbly, into the cool crispness of morning sunlight, and found both twins waiting, again, always. Their solid figures were silhouetted against the golden rays of the rising sun. A deep, instinctive comfort, a gentle hum of belonging, resonated through her at their unwavering presence. "She is responding?" Dane asked, his voice a low rumble of eagerness and concern. "Beautifully. 2 more doses and she will be back to full strength." Kenna swayed slightly, feeling a dizzying spin, and suddenly, Dane's arm was around her waist, firm and warm, steadying her. A jolt of pure connection, of innate safety, shot through her, and her inner wolf purred low in her chest as his reassuring scent enveloped her. "You need sleep," Devlin said firmly, his voice resonating with alpha authority, yet laced with gentle concern. "I need to document the treatment protocol while it is fresh in my mind," Kenna tried to argue, her voice a weak thread of defiance. "Sleep first, documentation later." Dane was already guiding her toward her cabin, his hand a warm, insistent pressure at her waist, Devlin a comforting presence on her other side. The combined warmth of their bodies surrounded her, propelling her forward. "You are no good to anyone if you collapse." The feeling of being completely enveloped, cared for, and utterly safe within their combined aura filled her. Kenna wanted to argue, but her body had other ideas. The moment they got her inside the cabin, her knees buckled, the floor seeming to rush up. Dane caught her easily, his arms strong and effortless, lifting her as if she weighed nothing. The dizzying sensation of being airborne, the rustle of his clothes, the comforting warmth of his chest against her. "Bed, now," he commanded, his voice low and firm. A wave of utter surrender and trust washed over her, her inner wolf sighing in deep satisfaction. "Bossy Alpha," Kenna mumbled, her voice slurred with exhaustion, a tiny spark of playful defiance. But she did not protest when he laid her gently on the soft mattress, the crisp coolness of the sheets a delicious relief against her skin. "Brilliant, Doctor," Dane countered, a soft chuckle in his tone, his hand firm and gentle as he pulled a blanket over her. The warmth and weight of the fabric settled, bringing a surge of affection and gratitude. "Who just saved a pup's life and needs to rest?" Devlin appeared, silent as always, with a cool bottle of water and 2 protein bars, their wrappers crinkling softly. "Drink, eat, sleep," in that order. Kenna managed half the water, its cool liquid sliding down her dry throat, and 2 bites of the chewy protein bar before her eyes refused to stay open. The last thing she felt was a gentle hand smoothing her hair back, a feather-light touch, and a voice, she could not tell whose, a shared harmony in their hushed tones, whispering, "You are exactly what this pack needs." The combined, comforting sense of both Dane and Devlin formed a protective embrace around her. Then sleep pulled her under, heavy and sweet, deep and dreamless, while her wolf purred with profound contentment, a resonant vibration through her very bones, a blissful peace. The air still carried the faint, sweet scent of the moon petal medicine, but now it was overshadowed by the crisp, earthy scent of pine and wood smoke. 3 days after Myra's final dose, the physical tension that had gripped the pack for weeks finally dissolved. The pup's wolf shifted fully for the first time in a month, her internal energy humming with renewed strength. Her wolf was strong, healthy, and absolutely vibrant, a deep, joyful resonance that pulsed through the pack's communal consciousness, and the entire pack wanted to celebrate. Kenna stood shielded from the direct heat, but she could feel the intense warmth radiating off the massive bonfire in the center of the compound. The light cast dancing ember shadows across the faces of the pack members, who laughed, their voices a joyful roar that mingled with the driving beat of the music. Speakers someone had rigged up lasted a mix of classic rock and modern pop rhythms under the vast, velvet expanse of the star-pocked sky, and the infectious, unrestrained energy of the celebration vibrated in the soles of her boots. She would dress carefully tonight, choosing a deep green dress crafted from a material that felt cool and smooth against her skin, the rich color strikingly bringing out the emerald flecks in her eyes. Her vibrant red hair was loose tonight, falling in heavy, defined waves down her back. A light touch of makeup made her feel polished and confident. Not for the twins, she told herself firmly, focusing on the slight tug of the fabric across her collarbone. For her, a low, knowing rumble echoed in her chest cavity. "Liar," her wolf whispered. Ashford. Mira came bounding up, her small legs pumping, the movement radiating pure, uninhibited joy. Her parents trailed behind, their relieved smiles crinkling the corners of their eyes. "Look, I can shift my ears now," the pup demonstrated, her fine brown hair momentarily disturbed as her ears flickered with startling speed between the small, neatly molded human form and the larger velvety points of a wolf's ear. A sound of pure, high-pitched delight escaped her throat as she giggled. "That is wonderful, Mira." Kenna knelt onto the rough earth, the movement easy, her expression genuinely thrilled. "Your wolf is so strong now. I am proud of you." She could sense the potent, healthy shift in the pup's aura. "Will you dance with me?" Mira's voice was bright. "Maybe later, sweetheart. Let me get settled first." Mira, already distracted by her new achievement, turned and ran off to show other pack members her quick shifting skill. Kenna slowly straightened, brushing dust from her dress, only to find both twins approaching. They moved with the silent, predatory grace, characteristic of high-ranking wolves. They wore dark jeans and fitted shirts that emphasized the taut muscle of their shoulders. Dane in deep, smoky charcoal gray, Devlin in cool navy blue. A subtle, clean scent of cedar and alpha musk preceded them. Several female pack members nearby paused their conversations, their gazes locking onto the twins' path with obvious, tracing interest. "You look beautiful," Ain said, his voice a low, resonant rumble that vibrated pleasantly in her inner ear. His eyes, the color of storm clouds, were genuinely warm, tracing the line of her throat. The mate bond, dormant in her focus on Mara, suddenly flared, a warm, insistent thrum. "Stunning," Devlin agreed, stepping closer. "That color is perfect on you." Kenna felt a sudden, unmistakable heat bloom across her cheeks, a flush that had nothing to do with the bonfire. "You both clean up well, too." A young woman with carefully styled, long blonde hair appeared almost silently at Devlin's elbow, her posture leaning intimately inward. She touched his forearm with a familiar, lingering ease. "Dev, you promised me a dance tonight, remember?" Her voice was smooth and slightly demanding. Devlin's smile was polite, his facial muscles moving minimally, making it seem distant. His arm beneath her touch remained motionless, unyielding. "I do not recall promising, Sierra, but I am sure someone else would love to dance with you." Sierra's smooth, practiced smile evaporated instantly. Her eyes flicked sharply to Kenna, filled with a swift, cold assessment and undisguised challenge, before she turned and drifted away with a visible, frustrated pout. Another woman, this one a striking brunette, whose curves were tightly encased in a stretch dress, appeared on Dane's other side, holding out a sweating glass. "Alpha Dane, I brought you a drink. Your favorite." Her voice was breathy. "That is kind, Maya, but I'm not thirsty." Dane's gaze never wavered from Kenna. She could feel the intense heat of his focus. His stance remained entirely closed off to the woman beside him. Maybe offer it to someone else. Maya's calculated smile faltered, her shoulders slumping slightly as she took the pointed hint and retreated into the crowd. Kenna watched this small, contained drama play out with pure academic fascination. The women were not subtle. Their intent was broadcast through their eagerness and proximity. But both Dane and Devlin were walls of polite indifference, deflecting each approach with practiced ease. their attention and the strong magnetic pull of their combined aura always returning entirely to her. "Does this happen often?" Kenna asked quietly, noting the residual tension in their shoulders. "Since we hit puberty," Devlin said with a wry, self-mocking smile, lifting one eyebrow. "Comes with the alpha twin territory. They are persistent. They are hopeful," Dane corrected softly. "But we have been clear about our intentions. When we find our mate, that is it. No distractions, no maybes." The deep certainty in his voice, coupled with the way he said it, his full body oriented toward her, looking directly into her eyes, sent a frantic, heavy rhythm through Kenna's chest. Her pulse spiked. The pulsing beat of the music shifted, slowing into a melodic, soulful rhythm. Dane extended his hand, palm up. "Dance with me?" Kenna placed her slightly smaller hand in his, and the instantaneous contact, skin to skin across their palms, sent a brilliant firework display of sparks shooting straight up her arm and settling as a warm hum beneath her sternum. He led her onto the packed earth of the makeshift dance floor, closer to the immense heat and scent of the bonfire. He pulled her flush against him, one firm, heavy hand settling possessively high on her waist, the other cradling her hand against the solid expanse of his chest. They moved together, their steps perfectly synchronized, and the movement felt utterly organic, like breathing, natural, easy, right. Dane's eyes never left hers, the gray depth intense and smoldering in the flickering amber light of the fire, and Kenna felt the mate bond stretching taut between them, a golden filament ready to snap into place. "You saved Myra's life," Dane said softly, his breath stirring the fine hair near her ear. The low vibration of his voice resonated against her collarbone. "The whole pack is grateful. I just did my job." "No, you did something extraordinary." His fingers tightened minutely on her waist, applying a firm, anchoring pressure. "You risked silver exposure, worked for 24 hours straight, and brought that little girl back from the edge. That is not just a job, Kenna. That is a calling." She did not know how to respond to such visceral praise, so she allowed herself to sink fully into the smooth, enveloping rhythm of the dance, into the overwhelming sensation of being safely held by him. His heartbeat was a steady, powerful thud under her palm, his body rigid with muscle yet surprisingly yielding, solid and intensely warm. Within her, her wolf stretched and purred with deep guttural contentment. "I could get used to this," she admitted quietly, the words almost lost in the music. "Good. Because I plan on—" "Mind if I cut in?" Devlin's voice was teasing, laced with ownership. He appeared abruptly beside them, his smile playful but his green-flecked eyes serious and assessing. Dane hesitated, his grip on Kenna's waist momentarily tightening with clear reluctance, but he stepped back with a small, grudging nod. "Do not step on her toes," Dane warned, his voice low and possessive. "Please, I am the better dancer." Devlin's hand replaced Dane's on her back, guiding her instantly. He took Kenna's hand and executed a controlled, swift spin before pulling her into the same close hold. The shift was immediate and jarring to her senses. Devlin's scent was distinct, sharper, slightly more citrusy. His hold was just as sure, his body just as strongly muscled, but something in the energetic current was fundamentally different. The mate bond was still powerfully present, still pulling, still a deep, magnetic hum, but compared to Dane's solid resonance, it felt like a strong, clear echo rather than the original, foundational song. Kenna's scientific mind, always active, coolly catalogued the subtle energetic differences between the twins. With Dane, the bond felt like sinking into coming home, a deep, cellular recognition. With Devlin, it felt like visiting somewhere acutely familiar, but not quite inherently yours, lacking that final, locked-in click. "You are analyzing," Devlin murmured, amusement warm in his voice. "I am a doctor. I analyze everything." "Find any conclusions yet?" Kenna met his eyes, seeing a quiet, profound knowledge mirrored there, a complete understanding of the path she was on. "You already know what I am going to conclude. Maybe, but you need to figure it out yourself." Devlin spun her out and back in again, the movement extraordinarily smooth and practiced. "That is the whole point of this, Kenna. Not us telling you, you knowing." Over Devlin's shoulder, Kenna caught sight of Sierra, the same blonde woman, approaching Dane again. She leaned in conspiratorially, her hand resting lightly on Dane's bicep as she said something, laughing musically. Dane offered a slight polite smile, his posture stiff, and said something brief into the air above her head. He then deliberately stepped back, removing himself from her reach. His gaze immediately soared over the heads of the dancers, finding Kenna's across the firelit expanse, and the raw, focused heat in his eyes, a blend of desire and relief, made her skip a step and stumble slightly on Devlin's foot. "Easy," Devlin murmured, his hand tightening to steady her instantly. "He is not going anywhere." "I am not worried about that." "No, you are not." Devlin sounded genuinely surprised, tilting his head slightly. Most women would be jealous, watching other females circle their potential mate. Kenna offered a casual shrug, the green fabric shifting with the motion. "That is not my personality. If Dane wants to entertain other options, that is his choice. I cannot control what other people do, only what I do, and getting jealous over something outside my control seems like a waste of energy." Devlin stopped dancing entirely, holding her lightly, staring at her face with something akin to awe softening his features. "Do you have any idea how rare that is, that kind of security?" "It is just logical. It is Luna behavior." Devlin's voice dropped, becoming soft but intensely focused, the sound carrying absolute conviction. Luna has to trust her alpha completely, even when pack females test boundaries. She cannot let jealousy make her irrational or cruel. She has to be above it, secure in herself and her bond. He smiled slowly, a genuine, warm expression. Dane's going to lose his mind when he realizes what he has got. Before Kenna could respond to the startling compliment, a new male voice, friendly and light, interrupted. "Excuse me, but I was hoping to steal a dance." Kenna turned to find a handsome pack member, mid-20s, sandy hair meticulously combed, waiting expectantly, his smile easy and genuine. "Marcus," Devlin said, his tone carefully neutral, the alpha authority barely concealed beneath the politeness. "Bold of you. The lady looks like she could use a break from dancing with alphas," Marcus said easily, a cheerful challenge in his voice. "Thought I would offer a less intense option." His eyes, warm and interested, met Kenna's directly. "I am Marcus. I run the pack's security detail." "Kenna," she said, offering a small smile. She glanced at Devlin, who gave a brief, tight nod of permission, even though she did not need the sanction. One dance. Marcus was a good dancer, surprisingly light on his feet beneath the bonfire glow, and refreshingly uncomplicated. When she was near him, the intense pressure of the alpha bond vanished completely, leaving only the pleasant, ambient warmth of the pack. They talked about his security work, the practical details of her medical practice, and the lingering relief of Mira's recovery. He was charming, his conversation flowing easily, interested without crossing into aggressive territory. "You are good for this pack," Marcus said, his voice sincere, as the song faded to a final chord. "We have not seen the twins this focused in years. Usually they are all business, no personal life. But with you here, they are different, more settled." "I am just here for Myra." "Sure you are." Marcus grinned knowingly, a slight twinkle in his eye. "Well, when you decide to stay for other reasons, we will be happy to have you." He left her side with a friendly, casual nod, merging back into the crowd. Kenna took a deep breath, the wood smoke and crisp night air filling her lungs, and turned to find Dane standing 10 feet away, bathed in the sharp brilliance of the firelight. He was watching her, and the intensity in his expression instantly made her breath catch sharply in her throat. Jealousy did not begin to cover the raw emotion radiating off him. His jaw was visibly tight, a corded muscle jumping near his ear. His hands were clenched into white-knuckled fists at his sides, his shoulders rigid with suppressed territoriality. His eyes tracked Marcus's retreating form with a searing, predatory focus that felt like a silent threat. But the moment his gaze snagged on Kenna's, the fierce tension in his face crumbled, softening into something vulnerable and almost painful to witness. The mate bond surged between them, powerful and absolute, radiating a blinding ache of recognition, love, that was undeniable, terrifying, unconditional love in his gray eyes. Devlin appeared beside his brother, following Dane's line of sight to Kenna. She watched Devlin's expression change, recognition, understanding, and something bittersweet. "You are staring at her like she hung the moon," Devlin said quietly, but Kenna's wolf hearing caught every word. "She might as well have." Dane's voice was rough. "Did you see how she handled Sierra and Maya? No jealousy, no possessiveness, just complete security in herself. And then she dances with Marcus like it is nothing because she does not feel threatened. That is Luna behavior, brother. I told you, it is more than that." Dane ran a hand through his hair. "She is kind without being weak, strong without being harsh, brilliant but humble. And she does not even realize how perfect she is. So what are you waiting for? For her to know, really know, beyond any doubt, that I am hers." Dane's eyes never left Kenna. "Because when she figures it out, when she chooses me with complete certainty, I am never letting her go." Devlin clapped his brother on the shoulder. "She is almost there. I can see it. The way she relaxed into you versus how she analyzed dancing with me. She knows, Dane. She just needs a little more time to trust it." Kenna pretended she had not heard, turning to accept a drink from a passing pack member. But her heart was racing, her wolf was singing, and she knew, absolutely knew, which twin made her soul resonate. She just needed to be completely certain before she said the words out loud. The party continued around them, music and laughter and celebration. But Kenna's awareness narrowed to one specific alpha across the bonfire. Dane, who watched her with love in his eyes. Dane, whose wolf called to hers like a song she would been waiting her whole life to hear. Dane, who was patient enough to let her find her own certainty, even when it clearly killed him to wait. Another woman approached him, tall, gorgeous, confident. Kenna watched Dane deflect her with the same polite distance he would shown all the others, his eyes immediately returning to find Kenna's in the crowd. And Kenna smiled, raising her glass in a small salute, because she was not jealous, she was secure, and that she was beginning to realize was exactly what a Luna should be. The air in the medical cabin was cool, carrying the faint, sterile scent of antiseptic and clean linens. Kenna was tracing a line on the smooth, cool laminate surface of the desk with her finger as she reviewed Myra's charts, the crisp paper rustling softly beneath her hand. And her phone rang. The sharp, jarring digital tone shattered the quiet. The hospital's number flashed on the clinical white screen, and her stomach immediately knotted, a cold, heavy clench deep in her abdomen. Then Frixnine. They never called her secondary line unless it was truly urgent. "Dr. Ashford," she answered, her voice dropping instantly into a low, professional register, the metallic coldness of the phone resting against her ear. "Kenna, thank God." Her colleague, Dr. Martinez's voice vibrated through the receiver, tight and strained with stress, pushed high with urgency. "We have a situation. 10-year-old male werewolf, presented with acute hemolytic anemia, fever spiking to 104, and his wolf is trying to force a shift, but cannot complete it. He is stuck halfway and deteriorating fast." Kenna's blood went cold, the horrifying image of a body caught painfully between forms flashing in her mind's eye. The complete shifts in young wolves were catastrophic. The body caught between two forms, unable to stabilize in either, tearing itself apart metabolically. "Symptoms onset?" she demanded, her voice clipped. 2 hours ago. Came on suddenly. We have tried standard protocols, but nothing's working. His wolf is panicking, which is making everything worse. Blood work? Running now. But we do not have time to wait for results. Kenna, he is crashing. We need you. She had not heard a single soft footfall, yet when she glanced up, both twins had appeared silently in the doorway, their massive frames filling the space. Their expressions were identical, concerned lines already etched around their gray eyes, reacting to the sudden gravity in her tone. The mate bond, which usually hummed a quiet, steady warmth, flared with a hot, protective spike of awareness as they sensed her mounting distress. Kenna pressed the heel of her hand over the mouthpiece, the plastic warm and slightly slick under her palm. "I need somewhere quiet to work. Medical emergency at the hospital. I have to treat it remotely. My office in the lodge," Dane said immediately, his voice low and steady, a calming counterpoint with a phone call. "Completely private, desk space, whatever you need." "This way," Devlin added, already turning. his movements precise and fast. Kenna followed, her heart pounding a heavy rhythm against her ribs, the phone pressed hard to her ear. She broke into a near run to keep pace with the twins' long strides. "Martinez, I'm mowing somewhere I can spread out. Do not do anything else until I call you back. 5 minutes." She hung up, the line clicking silent, and practically flew after them. They burst into the lodge, the heavy polished wood scent of old smoke and pine needles hitting her senses, up a flight of stairs where their boots thudded dully on the carpet, and into a spacious office. It was dominated by a massive executive desk, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined with dark leather-bound volumes, and windows overlooking the compound. "What do you need?" Ace asked, already moving to the desk, his strong hands efficiently clearing papers and making a clean, open space for her. "My medical bag from the cabin, the big one, my diagnostic manuals, the blue notebook on my bedside table." Kenna was already pulling out her laptop, her fingers flying across the keys, her mind racing through dozens of possibilities, and something to write with. On it, Devlin disappeared instantly, the sound of his quick retreat fading down the stairwell. Dane moved back to her side. "What else?" "Nothing. Just." Kenna looked up at him, meeting the intense concern in his steady gray eyes. The make bond tugged, needing reassurance. "This could take hours. You do not have to stay. We are staying." His tone was flat, final, leaving no room for argument, a steady heat radiating from him that acted as a physical anchor. Devlin returned moments later, breathing evenly despite his speed, carrying her supplies. He set the heavy leather medical bag, the massive thick tomes of her manuals, and the small blue notebook gently on the cleared desk space. Kenna spread out her diagnostic manual, a massive annotated tome she would compiled herself over years of practice, the smell of aged paper and dry print sharp in the air. She quickly opened her laptop to access the hospital's secure patient database remotely, the fan wearing to life beneath her hands. She called Martinez back. "Talk to me. Everything you have observed." For the next 20 minutes, Kenna asked rapid-fire questions, her pen scratching furiously across the thick paper of the blue notebook. Symptom progression, environmental factors, diet changes, recent activities, and family medical history. The electricity of her intense focus filled the room, making the air thick and taut. The twins sat quietly in the deep leather chairs against the far wall, their presence a silent, palpable pressure of support, watching as she worked. "His gums are what color?" Kenna asked, her scribbling slowing only for a second as she waited, her focus absolute. "Pale or yellow-tinged?" "Yellow-tinged," Martinez confirmed. "And the incomplete shift, which parts are stuck?" "Hands or claws. Face is partially shifted. Spine is elongated, but legs are still human." Kenna's mind raced through her mental database of conditions, discarding possibilities one after the other. Hemolytic anemia, plus incomplete shift, plus sudden onset. She flipped aggressively through her diagnostic checklist, the pages stiffer than magazine paper, running down possibilities. Not silver poisoning, wrong symptom pattern. Not wolfsbane, would present differently. Not a typical infection, too acute. Has he been camping recently? Any exposure to wild mushrooms? Kenna asked suddenly, the cold certainty clicking into place. A pause, a muffled conversation, low and fearful. Then Martinez came back on the line. "Yes, family camping trip 3 days ago. The kid was playing in the woods and might have eaten something." "Amanita virosa," Kenna said immediately, the name heavy and precise, flipping to the toxicology section of her manual. "Destroying angel mushrooms. Extremely toxic to werewolves. Attacks red blood cells and prevents proper shifting. Symptoms present 48 to 72 hours after ingestion. Oh God." "Treatment protocol." Martinez's voice was strained with fear. Kenna was already pulling up her notes, cross-referencing 3 different electronic sources, the glow of the screen reflecting in her tired eyes. "This is going to be complicated. I'm going to walk you through it step by step." She worked 4 hours, her concentration absolute, the only sounds the rapid click of her keyboard, her focused instructions to Martinez, and the rapid scratch of her pen. At some point, Dane appeared silently at her elbow with tea, the warm, rough porcelain of the mug pressed against her palm, and the steam carried the faint scent of black tea and honey. Kenna murmured thanks without looking up, her attention fixed on the metabolic calculations flashing across her screen. The boy's fever spiked higher. Nana adjusted medication dosages, factoring in his age, weight, and the terrifying fact that his metabolism was caught between human and wolf. Give him 15 milligrams of the compound, not 20, she instructed, her voice holding an unwavering firmness. His liver is already compromised from the toxin. We cannot overload it. Devlin set a plate of food beside her laptop, the scent of cold meat and bread. Kenna ate mechanically a sandwich, she thought, maybe turkey, while simultaneously reading through case studies of similar poisonings. The dull ache of fatigue began to settle into her neck and shoulders from hunching over the desk. The sun moved across the sky outside the office windows. The twins changed positions occasionally, stretching quietly or fetching fresh, bitter coffee, but they never left, their steady presence a warm, protective thrum through the mate bond. Kenna barely noticed them. Her entire world narrowed to the anxious voice on the phone and the critical data on her screen. His vitals are stabilizing, Martinez reported, round hour 4, the first genuine note of relief filtering through. Good, but we are not done. The shift is still incomplete. Kenna rubbed her burning eyes, the grit of exhaustion pulling at her, but forced herself to focus again. We need to guide his wolf back to full human without shocking his system. She walked Martinez through a careful sequence, energy work combined with precise medication, gentle verbal coaching for the young patient, and pressure points that would encourage the wolf to retreat safely. The twins watched as she instinctively demonstrated the techniques on herself, the phone wedged precariously between her shoulder and ear, her hands moving through deliberate, soothing motions while she explained each step. Like this. Press here for 3 seconds. Release. For 2. It triggers the parasympathetic nervous system, tells the wolf it is safe to let go, she instructed, her voice calm despite the immense strain. Hour 6. The boy's hands shifted fully back to human, the change reported with a whoosh of relief on the phone. Hour 7. His face completed the transition. Hour 8. His spine was completely realigned. He is full human, Martinez said, and Kenna could hear the utter relief and deep exhaustion in her colleague's voice, which cracked slightly on the last word. Vitals are stable. Fever's down to 101. His wolf has gone quiet but calm. The sudden physical relaxation was profound. Kenna sagged in her chair, a deep, shuddering exhale escaping her lungs. Keep him on the medication protocol for 72 hours. Monitor his blood work every 6 hours. The toxin needs time to fully clear his system. And Martinez? Yeah? Send the family counseling resources about wilderness safety. That kid got incredibly lucky. Will do, Kenna. You saved his life. You did the hands-on work. I just provided guidance. Do not diminish what you did. This was masterclass level diagnostics and treatment. A pause. We miss you here. When are you coming back? Kenna looked up at the question, feeling the sudden dramatic shift in the room's energy. She found both twins watching her with identical expressions of awe, and something deeper, more profound, pure, unadulterated pride shining in their eyes. I do not know, she said quietly. I will let you know. She hung up, the silence ringing in her ears, and stared at her laptop screen, at the dense notes she would taken, at the diagnostic checklist she would work through with methodical, almost inhuman precision. 8 hours. 8 hours of intense, draining focus, and she would brought a dying pup back from the edge, without even being in the same room. That, Ains said quietly, the low resonant timbre of his voice filling the quiet office, was extraordinary. Kenna blinked at him, her brain still half in the detached, analytical mode of practicing medicine. It was just diagnostic work. No. Devlin stood, moving closer, his movement fluid and powerful. That was you saving a life with nothing but your knowledge and your voice. Do you understand how rare that skill is? The sincerity in his voice was a raw, deep vibration. Any competent doctor could have. No, they could not. Dane was beside her now, his large hands settling gently on her shoulder, warm and immediately grounding, the rough texture of his flannel sleeve against her neck. Martinez said it herself, masterclass level. You diagnosed a rare poisoning from symptoms alone. created a treatment protocol on the fly, and guided another doctor through a procedure you could not even see. That is not just competence, Kenna. That is genius. Kenna's eyes burned with sudden hot tears, pure exhaustion, profound relief, and the overwhelming weight of being truly seen, acknowledged for the core of who she was. I was terrified the whole time. What if I would gotten it wrong? But you did not. Devlin's voice was gentle. You trusted your training, your instincts, and your knowledge. And because of that, a 10-year-old boy is alive. The tears spilled over, and suddenly, Dane was pulling her to her feet, wrapping her in his arms. Kenna buried her face in his chest and let herself shake, let herself feel the terror she would suppressed for 8 hours. You are incredible, Dane murmured into her hair. Absolutely incredible. Devlin's hand rubbed her back in soothing circles. The pack is lucky to have you, even temporarily. Kenna pulled back, wiping her eyes. I am a mess. You are human, Dane corrected. You just performed medical magic for 8 straight hours. You are allowed to be a mess. She laughed wetly, and Dane's thumb brushed away her remaining tears with devastating gentleness. Come on, Devlin said. You need real food and rest. They guided her to the lodge's kitchen, where Devlin cooked while Dane made her sit and drink water. The domesticity of it struck Kenna. These two powerful alphas, moving around each other with practiced ease, taking care of her. Eat, Dane commanded when Devlin set a plate in front of her. Kenna obeyed, suddenly starving. The food was simple, pasta with marinara, garlic bread, but it tasted like heaven. The hospital wants you back, Devlin observed. They always want me back. But you are considering staying here. Dane's eyes were steady on hers. Are not you? Kenna met his gaze and something shifted in her chest. I am considering a lot of things. The twins exchanged one of their looks, communicating silently, and then Dane smiled. Good, he said simply. Consider all you want. We are patient. But the way he looked at her, like she was precious, essential, his, made Kenna's wolf sing with certainty. She knew which twin was hers. She would known for days now, really. Every touch, every look, every moment of resonance had confirmed it. She just needed the right moment to say it out loud. Kenna made it back to her cabin on autopilot, her body moving through muscle memory alone, each step a dull throb in her exhausted legs. The scent of pine needles and damp earth was a faint, grounding note, under the overwhelming aroma of antiseptic that clung to her clothes. The twins had walked her there, Dane's hand a steady, warm weight on her lower back, his touch subtly anchoring her. Devlin, walking silently beside them, carried her medical bag as if its considerable weight were nothing more than a feather, its worn leather strap slung effortlessly over his shoulder. The soft crunch of their boots on the gravel path was the only sound breaking the compound's hushed late-night quiet. Sleep, Dane had ordered at her door, his warm, deep voice resonating with an authority that still managed to be gentle. Doctor's orders. His eyes, usually sharp and intense, were soft with concern, crinkling at the corners as a faint smile touched his lips. His wolf pulsed with a quiet, insistent urge for her to rest, a deep mate-bond feeling of protective care that wrapped around her. I'm a doctor, Kenna mumbled, her own voice thick with exhaustion, her shoulders slumping further as she leaned against the cool wood of the doorframe. Then follow your own advice. His smile widened slightly, a flash of white in the dim porch light. We will check on you later. The unspoken promise of their return was a balm to her weary soul, a comforting hum from the mate bond that settled deep in her chest. She nodded, too exhausted to argue, the simple movement a strain on her neck muscles. Cabin air, cool and still, enveloped her as she slipped inside, the soft click of the latch echoing in the quiet. She collapsed onto her bed, the mattress sighing under her weight, still wearing her rough jeans and soft, slightly sweat-damp sweater. The rough denim of her trousers and the comforting softness of her worn knit top were the last things she registered before sleep pulled her under immediately, deep and dreamless, a heavy, welcome blanket. 3 hours later, Kenna woke with a gasp, her mind immediately racing. The notes. A sharp jolt of adrenaline shot through her, instantly clearing the fog of sleep. A familiar, slightly metallic taste of adrenaline filled her mouth. She had not finished documenting the treatment protocol. If another case like this came up, the hospital would need her detailed process, not just the rough outline she would scribble during the emergency. Her pulse hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat urging her to action. She sat up, her body protesting every movement with dull aches in her back and shoulders. But her doctor brain was already compiling information with relentless efficiency. The diagnostic steps, the medication calculations, the shift guidance technique, all of it needed to be properly recorded, every detail precise and accurate. The need to complete the task resonated with a fierce urgency, momentarily overriding the lingering mate-bond contentment she would felt in sleep. Kenna splashed cool water on her face, the icy shock a reprieve from her fatigue. She changed into fresh, soft clothes, the clean fabric a welcome feeling against her skin, and gathered her laptop and notebooks, the familiar weight of them a comfort. The office in the lodge would be better for this. More space, better lighting, and all her reference materials were still there, waiting. The compound was quiet in the late afternoon, bathed in the soft golden light of the setting sun, long shadows stretching across the gravel paths. Most pack members were either working or training, their distant shouts and calls muted. Kenna slipped into the lodge, its grand hall hushed, and up to the office, relieved to find it empty. The faint scent of old paper and polished wood filled the air. The twins must be handling alpha duties, their presence resonating elsewhere in the compound, a faint, reassuring hum on the edge of her mate's senses. She spread out her materials, the crisp rustle of papers filling the quiet space, and began writing, her fingers flying over the keyboard with a practiced rhythm, each click a small, sharp sound. Enkiskalligamication required precision, every symptom noted, every decision justified, every outcome measured. The brightly lit screen cast a cool glow on her focused face. She cross-referenced her diagnostic manual, its pages worn smooth, pulled up research papers on her laptop, and verified medication dosages, her eyes scanning lines of text with unwavering intensity. The light outside shifted from afternoon gold to a soft evening purple, then to deep sapphire as twilight settled. Kenna barely noticed, too focused on getting every detail perfect, the scent of her own fatigue now mixing with the faint aroma of the lodge. This case, complex and critical, would go into the hospital's rare condition database and would potentially save other young wolves if this poisoning happened again. The thought fueled her, a deep, unwavering purpose. Her hand cramped from writing margin notes, a sharp, insistent ache in her wrist. Her eyes burned from staring at the screen, gritty and dry. But she kept working, her shoulders tight with tension, determined to finish, while the case was fresh in her mind, every detail vibrant in her memory. She just needed to document the final phase of treatment, the specific pressure points for encouraging safe shift completion. Her thoughts, once crystal clear, began to fuzz at the edges, the words on the screen blurring slightly. Kenna's head nodded forward, a sudden, heavy slump. She jerked it back up, blinking hard, the effort forcing a sharp spark behind her eyes. Focus. Just a few more paragraphs. The pressure points were located along the spine, corresponding to the 7 major chakras. The words swam before her, losing their meaning. Her eyes drifted closed, slowly, heavily. Just for a moment, just to rest them. Kenna's head settled onto her folded arms, cushioned by the soft fabric of her sleeves. Her vibrant red hair spilled across her careful notes, a crimson waterfall against the white paper, and sleep claimed her completely, a sudden, overwhelming darkness. Ain checked Kenna's cabin for the 3rd time, knocking gently with a soft rap of his knuckles against the sturdy wood. No answer. Again. A low thrum of unease had been building in his chest, a subtle discord in the mate bond that whispered of her absence. "She is not there," he told Devlin, worry creeping into his voice, a rough edge that had not been present before. "I have knocked 4 times. Either she is dead asleep or she is not inside." His wolf stirred restlessly beneath his skin, a low growl of anxiety forming deep in his throat. "She was exhausted," Devlin pointed out, his tone calmer, though a faint line of concern creased his brow. "Maybe she is actually resting for once. Maybe." But Dane's instincts prickled with unease, a deep, insistent vibration in his core. Kenna had worked herself to the bone today, 8 hours of intense mental focus without a break. He could still feel the echoes of her exhaustion through their bond, a lingering weariness. She needed rest, needed someone to make sure she actually took care of herself. They had been hunting for her for the past hour, checking the medical cabin, its door standing ajar and empty, the training grounds, smelling of damp earth and sweat, the dining hall, quiet and cavernous. None of the pack members had seen her since the twins had walked her to her cabin earlier. The mate bond, usually a comforting hum, was now a low, anxious strum in Dane's chest, urging him to find her. "Where would you go if you needed to work?" Devlin asked suddenly, his eyes widening with a flash of insight. Dane's eyes widened too, the answer clicking into place. A surge of relief mixed with exasperation washed over him. The office. They took the lodge stairs 2 at a time, moving with predatory silence, their powerful legs eating up the steps. The office door was ajar, a soft, warm light spilling into the otherwise dim hallway, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. Dane pushed it open carefully, the hinges groaning faintly, and stopped dead. Kenna was asleep at his desk, her head pillowed on her arms, her vibrant red hair a colorful spill against the dark wood. She was surrounded by open books, their pages fanned out, and scattered papers covered in her neat, precise handwriting. Her laptop screen had gone dark, a silent black rectangle, and her breathing was deep and even, a soft, rhythmic intake and release of air. She looked impossibly young like this, vulnerable, the fierce, competent doctor replaced by an exhausted woman who had pushed herself too far. A profound wave of tenderness washed over Dane, the mate bond radiating warmth and a fierce need to protect. "Stubborn," Dane murmured, but his voice was a low rumble, full of affection and a gentle knowing pride. "Like someone else I know," Devlin whispered, a faint smirk playing on his lips as he glanced at his brother. Dane moved carefully into the office, his footsteps light. He pulled a thick wool throw blanket from the couch, its soft, familiar texture warm in his hands. He draped it gently over Kenna's shoulders, tucking it around her with tender precision, his fingers brushing against the soft cotton of her sweater. She stirred slightly, a soft, unintelligible murmur escaping her lips, but did not wake, simply burrowing deeper into the blanket's warmth. This close, Dane could see the faint, purplish smudges under her eyes, the tension still present in the line of her shoulders, even in sleep, a testament to her battle against fatigue. She would give in everything today, to a patient she would never met, in a hospital hours away, with nothing but her voice and her knowledge. His chest ached with the need to protect her, to make sure she never had to carry these burdens alone again. The mate bond intensified, powerful, possessive thrum that promised solace and unwavering support. His wolf longed to curl around her, to shield her from the world. Devlin touched his shoulder, a firm, grounding pressure, jerking his head toward the door. Dane took one last, lingering look at Kenna, his mate, even if she had not claimed him yet, the truth of it singing in his blood, and followed his brother out, pulling the door almost shut behind them. They walked in silence down to the compound's gardens, the gravel crunching softly under their boots. It was a quiet space, away from pack ears, smelling faintly of night-blooming jasmine and cool earth. The moon was rising, a large silver orb, bright and luminous, casting everything in stark relief, and the night air was cool and crisp against their skin, a refreshing contrast to the warmth of the office. "She fell asleep on her notes," Devlin said, settling onto a smooth, weathered wooden bench, the sound a soft thud, probably documenting that entire 8-hour ordeal. Of course she was. Dane sat beside him, running his hands through his hair, a gesture of weary affection. She cannot just save a life and move on. She has to make sure the knowledge is preserved, shared, and used to save the next one. That is what makes her extraordinary. Devlin's voice was quiet, filled with genuine admiration. "That is what is going to drive me crazy." But Dane was smiling, soft, fond curve of his lips. She does not take care of herself. She just gives and gives, until there is nothing left. The mate bond pulsed with a mixture of exasperation, profound love for her selfless nature. "Good thing she will have an alpha to make sure she eats and sleeps," Devlin said pointedly, nudging Dane's shoulder with his own. a shared understanding passing between the twins, and a pact to support her when she takes on too much. Ain was quiet for a moment, staring up at the moon, its silver light painting the leaves of the trees. The weight of their conversation, and its implications, settled heavily between them. Dev, we need to talk about what happens next. The mate bond was a powerful, silent witness to the gravity of his words. I know. Devlin's voice was simple, devoid of surprise. She is mine. Dane's voice was soft, almost a whisper, but absolute, resonating with a deep, primal certainty that vibrated through every fiber of his being. My mate. You know it, I know it, and she is starting to know it too. The mate bond flared, a hot, undeniable declaration of ownership and deep love. I have known since the moment she walked onto our territory. Devlin's smile was bittersweet, a complex mix of joy for his brother and a faint, unspoken wistfulness. Your wolf recognized her before you even processed what was happening. And watching you two together these past days, there is no question, brother, she is yours. Dane turned to look at his twin, seeing the honest joy mixed with a hint of loss in Devlin's eyes, a reflection of their shared destiny, now diverging. I need to know you are okay with this. I am not just okay with it. Devlin leaned back, his expression open and sincere, his gaze meeting Dane's without hesitation. Dane, do you have any idea how lucky you are? How rare it is to find someone who is not just compatible but perfect. I am starting to. Dane's voice was quiet, a confession of the overwhelming truth that was slowly sinking in. She is brilliant without being arrogant, strong without being harsh. She has Luna qualities that most wolves spend lifetimes developing, that complete security in herself, that ability to stay calm under pressure, that natural authority that does not need to be aggressive. Devlin shook his head in wonder, a genuine awe coloring his tone. And she sees people, really sees them. The way she worked with Mira, the way she handled that emergency today, the way she did not get jealous at the pack gathering when females were circling you. She is grounded in a way I have never seen. She is, Dane agreed quietly, his heart swelling with pride, the mate bond humming with deep satisfaction at Devlin's praise. And she chose you. Devlin's voice held a note of awe, profound respect, not because the bond told her to, but because she took the time to be certain. She could have claimed you days ago, but she wanted to be sure. That is the kind of mate who will stand beside you for the rest of your life without wavering. Dane felt his throat tighten, a sudden lump of emotion. I love her, Dev. I did not expect it to happen this fast, but I do, completely. The words, raw and honest, felt like a physical release, making the mate bond sing with a dizzying, all-consuming joy. I know. I can see it every time you look at her. Devlin bumped his shoulder against Dane's, a comforting, familiar gesture. So here is what happens next. You claim her properly. You give her the marking ceremony she deserves, and you make her Luna of Valley Forge. And you? Dane asked, his voice slowed, needing to hear it. I will be your beta, same as always. Devlin's grin was genuine, a wide, easy smile in the moonlight. And I will support your Luna the way any good beta should, with loyalty, respect, and the occasional sarcastic comment to keep you both humble. He chuckled softly, the sound warm and full of affection. Plus, I get the fun of watching you try to make her rest and eat properly. That is going to be entertaining. The mate bond between the brothers settled into a comfortable, joyful rhythm, anticipating their intertwined future. Dane laughed despite himself. She is stubborn. Like I said, like someone else I know. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the weight of the conversation settling into something solid and sure. I want you happy too, Dev, Dane said finally. Your mate is out there somewhere. I know, and I will find her. When the time is right. Devlin looked at his brother, his expression serious now. But right now, I am genuinely happy for you. You deserve this, Dane. You have carried the weight of this pack for years, always put everyone else first, never complained. You deserve someone who sees how incredible you are and chooses you anyway. She thinks I am bossy. You are bossy. Protective, Dane corrected. Possessive, Devlin countered, laughing. But she needs that. Someone who will make her stop and breathe when she is working herself to death. Someone who values her enough to be possessive about her well-being. Dane thought about Kenna asleep in his office, old sausage. She could not even make it back to her cabin before collapsing. I'm going to take care of her. I know you will. Devlin stood, stretching. So when are you going to tell her? Officially, I mean. No more games. No more tests. Just you claiming your mate. Soon, when she is ready to claim me back. Dane stood too, looking back toward the lodge where Kenna still slept. I want her to say it first. I want to hear her choose me out loud. She will, probably sooner than you think. Devlin clapped him on the shoulder. In the meantime, we should probably get her to an actual bed. Your office chairs go to destroy her neck. They walked back to the lodge together, two alphas in perfect sync, and Dane felt the certainty settling into his bones. Kenna was his mate, his Luna, his future. And when she was ready to say it out loud, he would be waiting. In the office, Kenna stirred in her sleep, the blanket slipping slightly. Dane tucked it back around her shoulders, his hand lingering for just a moment on her hair. Soon, he whispered, soon you will know, and then I am never letting you go. Devlin watched from the doorway, smiling at the tenderness in his twin's expression. Dane was right. He was incredibly lucky. And Kenna Ashford had no idea what she was walking into. A love so fierce, so complete, so absolute that it would reshape her entire world. Kenna woke in an actual bed, her cabin bed, with no memory of getting there. The heavy, down-filled blanket felt warm and substantial, tucked firmly around her shoulders. Scent of pine, damp earth, and the clean, low musk of her alpha clung faintly to the coarse wool, and she knew immediately that Dane had carried her here. A jarring vibration. Her phone buzzed insistently on the smooth, cool wood of the nightstand. The illuminated screen glared. 4:47 a.m. The hospital number. The plastic of the phone felt suddenly slick in her palm. Her heart sank, a cold, heavy weight settling in her gut, even before she hit the answer button. Dr. Ashford. Director Chen's voice was sharp, clipped, and echoed slightly through the speaker. We need you back, now. We have a situation that is rapidly deteriorating, and you are the only one with the expertise to handle it. The sheets tangled briefly around her legs as Kenna sat up, already reaching for clothes. What is the situation? Mass poisoning event. 12 werewolf pups, ages 6 to 13, all from the same pack. They attended a youth camping event and consumed contaminated water. We have got 4 in critical condition, 2 showing signs of organ failure, and the rest declining rapidly. Standard detox protocols are not working. The gravity of the number, 12 children, made her breath hitch. Symptoms? Kenna was yanking on rough denim jeans, the phone wedged awkwardly between her shoulder and ear, pressing hot against her cheek. Severe vomiting, seizures, temperature dysregulation. Some pups are burning up while others are hypothermic. Their wolves are trying to heal them, but cannot identify the toxin. Chen's voice cracked slightly, the sound brittle with stress. Kenna, we are losing them. We need you here. I am 6 hours away. We are sending a helicopter. It will be at Valley Forge in 20 minutes. Pack light. The line went dead with a hard click. Kenna stared at her phone, her stomach churning, the metallic taste of adrenaline sharp in her mouth. 12 pups, children, dying. She moved on autopilot, her hands oddly numb but efficient, throwing scrubs and essential medical equipment into a small duffel bag. Her hands shook slightly as she quickly braided her hair back, the dark strands cool and slippery, her mind already running through complex toxin possibilities. A sharp, firm knock on her door. Ear outside the door shifted, bringing the crisp, cold scent of early morning and the familiar, grounding smell of alpha, fire, and cedar. Both twins stood there, already dressed to bite the early hour. We heard, Dane said quietly, his voice a low, steady rumble that helped settle the frantic buzzing in her ears. The helicopter contacted us for landing clearance. I have to go. Kenna's voice cracked, raw with urgency. 12 pups are dying, and we know. Devlin stepped inside, his movements solid and economical. He lifted her heavy canvas medical bag, the worn leather strap creaking. We will help you pack. What else do you need? They moved efficiently, the twins gathering her scattered belongings, while Kenna did a final mental inventory. Laptop, chargers, reference books, medication samples. her specialized diagnostic kit, and the cool plastic of her tablet. "Myra," Kenna said suddenly, looking up. "I need to check on her before I go." "She is stable," Dane assured her, his eyes dark with certainty. "Completely healthy. You saved her, Kenna. Now go save those other pups." Kenna nodded, linking back tears she did not have time for. "I will come back. As soon as the emergency is handled, I will come back. We know you will." Dane's hand cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. The sudden, intense warmth from his skin radiated deep into her bone structure, a temporary anchor in the mounting chaos. "Go be extraordinary. We will be here." The thudding rotors of the helicopter were a choppy, insistent rhythm, growing louder across the compound. Back members were emerging from cabins, drawn by the noise and the scent of urgency. Kenna grabbed her bags and ran, the twins flanking her. At the landing pad, the powerful blast of cold air from the rotor wash hit her face. She turned back one last time. "Thank you," she said, looking between them, "for everything." Dane pulled her into a fierce, crushing hug, the rough fabric of his jacket against her cheek, his protective scent overwhelming her for a brief second. "Come back to us." "I will." She pulled away, climbed into the vibrating metal box of the helicopter, and the hydraulic hiss of the door closed between them. As they lifted sharply into the pre-dawn sky, Kenna watched Ballyford shrink below, the lodge, the dark roofs of the cabins, two identical figures standing side by side, watching her leave. The wrongness of leaving was a sharp physical ache in the mate bond, a thread stretched taut between her chest and the earth she was flying away from. Her wolf howled with the wrongness of leaving, but her doctor brain was already shifting into emergency mode, cold and analytical. 12 pups needed her. She would grieve the leaving later. The hospital was in chaos when Kenna arrived. The sterile, metallic scent of disinfectant and blood immediately assaulted her nose, a stark contrast to the clean air of the mountains. She ran through the emergency entrance, her medical bag slamming against her hip, and found Dr. Martinez waiting. The relentless high-pitched beep and groan of monitors created a high-stress symphony nearby. 4 pups in ICU, 2 coding, Martinez said, immediately falling into step beside her. His voice was tight with fatigue. "The others are holding steady but declining. We have tried everything in the standard protocols." Kenna scrubbed in while reviewing charts on a tablet. The heavy weight of the tablet felt cool beneath her fingers as she swiped through the complex, contradictory data. The symptoms were confusing. Some pups presented with neurotoxin indicators, jerking limbs, others with heavy metal poisoning signs, organ stress, still others showing autoimmune responses, rash and swelling. "It is not one toxin," Kenna said, her mind racing, the pieces clicking into place. "It is multiple contaminants in the same water source. Their wolves are trying to heal everything at once and cannot prioritize." She entered the ICU. The air was thick and humid, filled with the sharp smell of sweat and sickness. The fluorescent lights hummed harshly overhead. She observed the distressed, faint scent of panicked young wolves beneath the clinical odors. Kenna moved from bed to bed with quick efficiency, examining each small patient. A girl's body jerked violently with seizures under the white sheet. A boy whose skin was frighteningly pale and unnaturally cool to the touch. Another child whose heart rate was dangerously erratic on the monitor screen. "We need to separate the toxins," Kenna said, the words cutting through the noise. "Figure out what each pup is reacting to most severely, and treat them individually, not as a group." She worked for 18 hours straight, the cool, smooth surface of the stethoscope against the warm, clammy skin of the children, the relentless click of syringes, the scrape of her chair. She moved seamlessly between stations. She barely paused to drink the tepid water Martinez offered. Slowly, patterns emerged from the blood samples and toxin panels. 3 pups had arsenic poisoning, likely from old mining runoff. 4 had bacterial infections from waterborne parasites. 2 were reacting severely to industrial chemicals. Someone had dumped waste upstream. The remaining 3 had combinations requiring delicate balancing of treatments. Kenna designed individual protocols, adjusting dosages based on age, weight, and severity. The first pup stabilized at hour 12, the shallow breathing deepening into rest. The second and third at hour 15. By hour 20, All 12 were out of immediate danger, their vitals lines smoothing out on the monitors. Kenna collapsed into a rigid plastic chair in the break room, the adrenaline crash hitting her like a physical tremor. Her muscles burned with fatigue, and her hands were shaking. Martinez brought her coffee and a sandwich. "You did it again," Martinez said quietly. 12 lives saved. "We did it," Kenna corrected. "Team effort. Team led by you." Martinez sat down across from her. "The parents want to thank you. The whole pack is gathering outside." Kenna shook her head, forcing down a mouthful of the dry sandwich. "I cannot. Not yet. The Orphan Night team knows the protocols, and I need to document everything while it is fresh." "Kenna," Martinez's voice was gentle but firm, "you have been working for 20 hours. You need rest." "I will rest when they are completely stable." She worked through the night, monitoring, adjusting, documenting, the faint, bitter taste of old coffee clinging to her tongue. By dawn, all 12 pups were sleeping peacefully, their vitals steady, their wolves finally able to rest. Kenna stepped outside the hospital into the morning sunlight, the glare a sudden, painful shock after hours under fluorescence. She felt the absence of Valley Forge like a physical ache. Back at Valley Forge, Dane stood at the office window. The large pane reflected the crisp autumn sky, but he saw only the space where Kenna should be. 3 days. Kenna had been gone for 3 days. The subtle scent of her, vanilla, antiseptic, and something innately hers, was almost gone from the room. "You are brooding again," Devlin said from the doorway. He dragged a heavy leather chair across the polished floor, the soft scrape loud in the oppressive silence. "I am thinking. You are miserable." Devlin entered, dropping into the chair. "We all are. The pack keeps asking when she is coming back." Dane turned from the window. The urge to pace was a restless internal vibration he fought to suppress. "Is she coming back?" "She said she would." She said, "As soon as the emergency is handled. The hospital is her life, Dev. She is the best at what she does. What if they convince her to stay?" Devlin was quiet for a moment. "Do you trust her?" "With my life." "Then trust that she meant what she said." A small voice, high and thin, interrupted from the doorway. "Where is Dr. Kenna?" Myra stood there, healthy and vibrant, her small hand gripping the wooden door frame, but her eyes were worried. Dane's heart clenched. "She had to help some sick pups at her hospital," Dane explained gently, "but she will be back soon. She promised to teach me more about being brave," Myra said. "Do you think she forgot?" "No, sweetheart. Dr. Kenna does not forget her promises." Devlin pulled Myra into a hug, the lightness of her body a sharp reminder of her recent illness. "She is just very good at her job, so lots of people need her help. But we need her too," Myra said, and the simple honesty of it hit Dane like a physical, heavy punch to the chest. "We need her too." The whole pack felt her absence. Training sessions felt off without her soft movements watching from the sidelines. Meals in the lodge were quieter without her sharp, thoughtful laughter. Even the medical cabin felt empty, though they would hired a temporary pack doctor to cover basic needs. "She has been texting," Devlin offered after Myra left, "updating us on the pups' conditions. All 12 are stable now. I know. I have been reading every message about 15 times each. Pathetic, accurate." Dane rubbed his face. "I hate this, Dev. I hate that she is out there dealing with an emergency alone. I hate that I cannot help. I hate that she might realize she does not need us. She needs us." Devlin's voice was certain. "You did not see her face when she left. She did not want to go, Dane. She had to, because that is who she is. But she did not want to." "How do you know?" "Because she looked back." Devlin met his brother's eyes. "When the helicopter was lifting off, she looked back at you like her heart was breaking. That is not someone who was planning to leave permanently." Dane's phone buzzed. A text from Kenna. "All pups stable. I should be able to leave tomorrow. Miss you all." Just 3 words at the end. "Miss you all." But they made Dane's chest ache with hope. He typed back, "We miss you too. Your cabin is waiting." "So are we." The response came immediately. "I will be there. Promise." Dane showed the message to Devlin, who grinned. "See, she is coming home." "This is not her home yet, is not it?" Devlin stood, moving to the window that overlooked the compound. "She healed our pack's pup. She saved a life from here while working remotely." She fit into our routines like she would always been here. The pack loves her, Myra adores her, and you are completely gone for her." He looked back at his brother. "Seems like home to me." Dane joined him at the window, looking out at Valley Forge. Their territory, their pack, their responsibility. And somewhere in the city, 6 hours away, was the woman who had walked into their lives and changed everything. "When she gets back," Dane said quietly, "I am telling her, no more games, no more tests. I am claiming my mate properly." "About time." Devlin clapped his shoulder. "Just make sure you shower first. You'd been wearing the same shirt for 2 days. Dane looked down at himself and grimaced. "Have I? You are a disaster without her. It is embarrassing." Despite everything, Dane laughed. "What am I going to do when she is actually mine? I will be insufferable. You are already insufferable." "But yeah, it is going to get worse." Devlin's smile was warm, genuine, and I cannot wait to watch it happen. Kenna stood in the hospital parking lot the next afternoon, her bags packed, her replacement protocols delivered, her patients stable and healing. Director Chen had offered her the head of pediatrics position, a promotion, a raise, her own research budget. She would turn it down. "I have something I need to get back to," she would said simply. Now sitting in a rental car 6 hours of driving ahead of her, Kenna felt her wolf surge with anticipation. Valley Forge. Dane. Home. When did it become home? She did not know exactly. Somewhere between Mira's first amber-eyed flash falling asleep in Dane's office, somewhere between Devlin's playful challenges and the pack gathering where she would felt like she belonged, somewhere between arriving as a visiting doctor and leaving as something infinitely more precious. Her phone buzzed. A text from Dane. "Drive safe. We are waiting." Kenna smiled, started the engine, and began the journey back to the place and the people her heart had chosen. The last hour of the drive to Valley Forge felt like the longest of Kenna's life, each passing minute stretching into an eternity of anticipation. Her rental car, a practical, unassuming sedan, climbed the winding mountain road. The asphalt beneath her tires was still faintly warm from the day's heat, but the air ahead grew cooler, carrying the crisp scent of pine and damp earth. The sun, a swollen orb of fiery orange and deep rose, dipped steadily toward the horizon, painting everything in shades of amber and molten gold. Each distant peak was silhouetted in a hazy purple, and the leaves of the ancient trees lining the road seemed to glow with a fleeting, ethereal light. Deep within her, Kenna's wolf was practically vibrating with a low, insistent hum, a powerful thrumming beneath her ribs. It pressed forward, a primal internal urge, clawing at her control, urging her to drive faster. Get there now. Home, home, home. The yearning was a physical ache, a sweet, sharp pang in her heart. Kenna's hands tightened on the smooth, cool plastic of the steering wheel, her knuckles turning white as she gripped it fiercely. A tremor ran through her forearms. When had Valley Forge, the place she would stumbled upon by accident, become home? When had these werewolves, whose faces and scents she would known for barely 2 weeks, become pack? When did one specific alpha, with his storm-gray eyes and quiet strength, become so utterly essential to her existence, a vital anchor for her very soul? She knew the answer. She would known for days, really, since the almost kiss in the forest clearing, when the crisp, earthy scent of pine and his intoxicating male aroma had filled her senses, and the air between them had practically crackled with unspoken tension. Since watching him watch her at the pack gathering, feeling the warmth of his steady gaze on her back, a tangible presence. Since waking to find he would carried her to bed, the memory of the soft, comfortable mattress and the tender care with which he would tuck a blanket around her, wrapping her in unexpected security, still had a vivid warmth in her mind. Dane was her mate, not because some ancient abstract fate had dictated it, but because her soul recognized his. A deep, resonant chord struck within her that resonated with every fiber of her being, echoing a completeness she had not known she lacked. It was a warmth that spread from her chest, blooming outward, settling deep in her bones, and she was done pretending otherwise. The realization brought with it a sudden liberating lightness, a deep breath escaping her lungs, and a subtle straightening of her spine. The compound gates, Heavy wrought iron gates flanked by rough-hewn stone columns came into view, and Kenna's heart leaped, a frantic burr beating against her ribs. The guard, a burly werewolf with kind eyes and a familiar pack scent, waved her through immediately. They would been expecting her. The crunch of gravel under her tires was a welcome sound as she drove slowly through the property, taking in the familiar cabins with smoke curling lazily from their stone chimneys, the wide, open expanse of the training grounds, the massive, imposing lodge, with its dark wooden beams. The air here smelled richer, a comforting blend of wood smoke, damp earth, pine, and the subtle, exciting scent of many wolves, a scent that now felt like its own unique perfume of belonging. As she neared the main clearing, Kenna saw them. Pack members were gathering, their figures distinct in the fading light, and she realized with a jolt that they were waiting for her. A collective murmur rose as her car approached. Myra, a small splash of bright red in her coat, bounced excitedly on her toes at the front of the group, her tiny hands waving frantically, a joyful squeal spilling from her lips. Other wolves smiled, their eyes shining with genuine warmth, and called out greetings, their voices a chorus of welcome. But Kenna only had eyes for the two identical figures standing front and center, their tall, powerful forms etched sharply against the amber sky. Her gaze was drawn, magnetically, to Dane, a force pulling her forward so intensely it almost felt physical. She parked the car, the engine purring to a stop, and barely had the door open, the scent of leather and dust escaping, before Dane was there. He moved with the speed of a predator, pulling her out and into his arms with a fierceness that stole her breath, the solid impact of his chest against hers, shaking the air from her lungs. His arms locked around her, immense and unyielding, lifting her slightly off the ground, and she inhaled deeply, a dizzying mix of pine, clean male skin, and pack filling her senses. "You came back," he said against her hair, his voice a low, rough rumble that vibrated against her scalp, thick and raw with emotion, with unspoken relief. "I promised I would." Kenna pulled back just enough to look up at him, her hands instinctively gripping the rough fabric of his shirt, the love in his storm-gray eyes, a deep, vulnerable emotion that mirrored her own, made her chest ache with a sweet, aching pressure. The tiny crinkles at the corners of his eyes, the faint shadow of stubble on his jaw, all felt impossibly dear. "Dane, she did not finish with words. Instead, her fingers clenched on the front of his shirt, the coarse cotton warm beneath her skin, and she pulled him down, closing the small distance between them, and kissed him. World exploded into sensation. His lips were warm, soft, shockingly yielding beneath hers, then firming as he responded. Dane made a low guttural sound, deep in his throat, a primal growl of pleasure and approval. His arms tightened around her waist, lifting her even higher, her feet dangling above the ground as he anchored her against him. The mate bond that had been humming between them for weeks, a subtle, underlying thrum in her blood, suddenly snapped into place with a palpable click, complete and whole and absolutely right. A white-hot current surged through every nerve ending, flooding her veins with electric warmth, a deep-seated root growing instantly, connecting them physically and spiritually. A profound sense of peace and belonging settled over her like a heavy, comforting blanket, yet simultaneously, a raging inferno ignited in her core. Kenna poured everything into that kiss, the desperate longing, the absolute certainty, the deliberate, empowering choice. The scent of him, the taste of him, the sheer undeniable presence of him overwhelmed her. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, their breaths ragged and mingling in the cool evening air, she kept her forehead pressed to his skin warm and faintly damp against hers, savoring the intimate contact, her eyes fluttering closed. "Thank you for the home, my alpha," she whispered, her voice soft and breathless but carrying a surprising resonance, loud enough for the sudden hush of the gathered pack to hear. "My mate." Words spoken aloud, resonated deep within her, solidifying the bond. Dane's storm-gray eyes widened, then blazed with a joy so pure, so brilliant, it was almost painful to witness, like staring directly into the sun. A slight tremor ran through his lips, fighting a grin that threatened to split his face. "Say it again, my mate." Kenna's smile was radiant, uninhibited, reflecting the incandescent joy in her eyes. "It is you, Dane. It has always been you. I am sorry it took me so long to say it out loud, but I am certain, completely certain." The words tasted of freedom on her tongue. Dane kissed her again, deeper this time, a hungry, claiming kiss that celebrated their bond and promised an eternity all at once. His tongue sought hers, a sweet invasion that left her dizzy. The pack, which had been holding its collective breath, erupted into a cacophony of cheers and howls, the sound joyous and wild, a primal roar that vibrated in Kenna's bones and resonated deep in her chest. When they finally came up for air, both flushed and breathless, Devlin was standing beside them. His smile was genuine and warm, the crinkles at the corners of his eyes reflecting sincere happiness. "About damn time," he said, his voice a familiar, comforting rumble, pulling Kenna into a quick, solid hug the moment Dane released her. The scent of him, slightly different from Dane, but still unmistakably Pack, enveloped her. "Welcome to the family, Una." The title, heavy with new responsibility, felt like a warm cloak settling around her shoulders. "Devlin," Kenna started, her gaze quickly scanning his face for any sign of hurt or resentment, searching for a shadow in his usually open features. "I am happy for you both," he said firmly, his voice steady and unwavering, his expression completely open, dispelling any lingering doubt. "Truly, perfect for him, and he has been absolutely miserable without you. Please never leave again. He's been wearing the same shirt for 3 days, he finished with a knowing smirk. "I have not," Dane protested, his tone mock indignant, a low growl in his chest, but his hand never left Kenna's waist, its steady, anchoring warmth a constant comfort against her hip. "You absolutely have," Devlin countered playfully. Then his expression turned serious, the playful light fading from his eyes, replaced by a focused intensity. "But actually, Kenna, we need to talk to you about something. Both of us." Kenna felt a cold flicker of anxiety, a quick flutter in her stomach, a prickle of unease on her skin. Her breath hitched. "What is wrong?" "Nothing's wrong." Dane's thumb traced slow, soothing circles on her hip, a warm, steady anchor against the sudden chill of her anxiety, the mate bond already working to calm the subtle agitation. His voice was calm and steady. "But before we go any further, you need to tell me about the hospital, about what happened there." Kenna took a deep, fortifying breath, her gaze finding Dane's, seeing the deep concern lingering there. "Director Chen offered me a position, head of pediatrics, significant raise, my own research budget." She saw Dane's jaw tighten almost imperceptibly, saw the flash of pain he tried to hide, a quick shadow that crossed his gray eyes, too fast for most, but clear as day to her. She felt a sympathetic pang. "I told her I would get back to her on it, but you were considering it." His voice was carefully neutral, a thin veil over deeper emotions. "I was," Kenna admitted, a rush of honesty flooding her. "For about 30 seconds. Then I realized I did not want it. Not if it meant staying in the city, being 6 hours away from." She gestured around the compound, with a sweeping motion of her arm, at the pack, at him, the physical action reflecting her commitment. "From this, from you." The thought of such a separation created a sudden stark emptiness in her chest, a sharp contrast to the fullness she felt now. Dane's eyes closed briefly, relief washing over his features, smoothing the lines of tension around his mouth, a faint sheen of peace softening his brow. "Kenna, but I did negotiate something," she continued quickly, the words tumbling out. "Director Chen knows I'm one of the best diagnosticians on staff. So I told her I would be willing to consult remotely on complex cases, work from anywhere, handle emergencies via phone and video conference, come in for critical situations that require hands-on treatment." She bit her lip nervously, the familiar texture a small comfort. Her gaze flickered between Dane and Devlin, searching for their reactions. "It would mean staying here, at Valley Forge, full-time. But I would still be practicing medicine, still saving lives, just from home." "Home," Dane repeated, the word a soft, reverent whisper on his lips, heavy with meaning, a sacred sound. The gentle curve of his mouth, the adoration in his eyes, spoke volumes. "If that is okay with you," Kenna added, a fresh wave of anxiety tightening her throat, a cold knot in her stomach. "I know we have not talked about logistics. about what claiming each other actually means for day-to-day life. And I do not want to assume. Dane kissed her quiet, soft and sweet, a gentle pressure of his lips that instantly dissipated her fears, replacing them with warmth and certainty. It is more than okay. It is perfect. He pulled back, his smile turning mischievous, his eyes sparkling with a new, playful light. Actually, it works out incredibly well. Because we have something to show you. Show me what? Her voice was a soft, curious question. Come on. Devlin was already walking toward the medical cabin, his long stride quick and purposeful, gesturing for them to follow with a sweeping motion of his hand. The crunch of gravel under their feet was a rhythmic sound. We have been working on this since you left. We wanted to have it ready for when you got back. Kenna let Dane take her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers in a firm, warm clasp that felt utterly right, a perfect fit. He led her through the compound, pack members calling out congratulations and warm welcome home greetings as they passed, their voices filled with genuine joy. Kenna's heart was so full it felt like it might burst, a joyous pressure behind her ribs. The feeling of utter completeness, of being cherished and integrated, was overwhelming. They reached the medical cabin, and Kenna stopped short, her feet planting instinctively as a jolt of surprise ran through her. It was bigger, significantly bigger. Someone had added an entire wing to the structure, new, pale wood still starkly distinct against the weather-beaten, darker logs of the older construction. The clean, sharp lines of the new addition spoke of recent, dedicated work. The faint, fresh scent of cut pine filled the air. "What did you do?" she breathed, her voice a soft gasp of disbelief and wonder. "We expanded," Dane said, his voice warm with pride, a rich timbre laced with genuine pleasure and anticipation. "Go look inside." Kenna pushed open the door, the smooth, cool doorknob turning easily, and gasped, a sharp intake of breath as cooler air from within washed over her. The original medical cabin remained, but now it was pristine. Gleaming surfaces of new stainless steel equipment caught the light. Organized supply cabinets, their clear doors revealing orderly rows of brightly colored medical supplies, lined the walls. Proper examination table gleamed, with adjustable height controls and built-in lighting, the cool, smooth surface inviting. Everything a pack doctor could need for treating patients was laid out with thoughtful care, and the clean scent of disinfectant, new wood hung in the air. But beyond that, through a new, smoothly finished archway was an office, her office. A sudden rush of warmth and proprietary feeling, a thrill of ownership, washed over her. A massive desk, made of solid, dark wood, sat beneath wide windows that overlooked a vibrant green tapestry of the forest. Built-in bookshelves, their shelves smooth and empty, lined one wall, perfectly sized for her medical manuals and reference texts. A comfortable, ergonomic chair, its soft, supple leather gleaming, invited her to sit. A laptop docking station was neatly integrated, and filing cabinets stood ready, with crisp, clean labels already in place. Diagnostic protocols, case studies, research materials. The faint, lingering scent of new leather, wood, and cleaning products was present. The corner, a small seating area with a soft, inviting couch and a polished coffee table offered space for quiet consultations or simply taking a break. And on the desk, glinting under the soft overhead light, a perfectly engraved nameplate that made her throat close up with emotion. Dr. Kenna Ashford, Valley Forge Medical Director. The elegant lettering stood out sharply. "We started building it the day after you saved Myra," Devlin said quietly from behind her, his voice a gentle rumble of explanation. "Before you got the emergency call from the hospital. We were going to surprise you anyway, but then you left and we worked double time to finish it. You built this for me." Kenna's voice cracked, barely a whisper, thick with overwhelming emotion. "Before I even chose to stay." "You were hoping you would choose to stay," Dane corrected gently, his strong arms coming around her from behind, his chest pressing against her back. His chin rested lightly on her shoulder, the soft brush of his beard a comforting tickle. "We wanted you to have a space that was yours, a place where you could practice medicine and still be here, with the pack, with me." The low, steady cadence of his voice vibrated through her, and she felt a profound sense of being cherished, protected, and truly seen. Kenna turned in his arms, tears streaming down her face, tracing wet, warm paths on her cheeks. It is perfect. It is so perfect. The overwhelming swell of gratitude and love was almost too much to bear. There is more. Dane wiped her tears away gently with his thumb, the soft, tender touch leaving a lingering warmth. High-speed internet installed, video conferencing equipment for remote consultations, a sleek monitor and high-definition camera already set up, a dedicated phone line. Everything you need to work with your hospital while living here. The whole pack helped build it, Devlin added, his voice resonant with communal pride. Everyone wanted to contribute something for the doctor who saved Myra. You are Pack now, Kenna. This is what Pack does. We take care of our own. The visceral feeling of belonging, a deep, foundational security, sank into Kenna's bones, enveloping her in the warmth of collective acceptance. Kenna could not speak past the tight, constricting lump in her throat. She just pulled Dane down for another kiss. This one slower, deeper, a wordless vow. It was full of overwhelming gratitude and boundless love, and the unwavering promise of their shared future. The familiar electric current sparked between them, even more potent now with their profound understanding, a deep, soul-shaking affirmation of their mate bond. I will call Director Chen tomorrow, she whispered against his lips. Accept the remote consulting position. Make it official. And stay here? Dane asked, though his eyes already knew the answer. Permanently, and stay here permanently, as your mate, as Valley Forge's medical director. Kenna smiled through her tears. As home. Dane lifted her off her feet, spinning her once before setting her down carefully. You have no idea how happy you have just made me. I think I have some idea. Kenna laughed, then looked at Devlin. Thank you. For everything. For the tests. For helping Dane be patient. For building this place. Thank you for choosing him, Devlin said simply. And for choosing us. This pack. He glanced between them, his smile warm. I will let you two have some privacy. I am sure you have things to discuss. He left, closing the door behind him, and suddenly Kenna and Dane were alone in her new office, in her new space, in her new life. Things to discuss, Dane repeated, pulling her close again, like when we are doing the Luna ceremony, and when you are moving out of the guest cabin into my room in the lodge. And how we are going to manage you working from here while I try not to distract you constantly. Those all sound like excellent things to discuss. Kenna's hands slid up his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. But first, I need to say something. What? I love you. The words came easily, naturally, like they would have been waiting to be said all along. I love your patience, your protectiveness, the way you care for your pack. I love how you made me work for certainty because you understood it mattered. I love that you built me an office before I even chose you, because you had faith I would choose you. Dane's eyes were suspiciously bright. I love you too, from the moment you stepped out of that car with determination in your eyes and medical knowledge in your hands. I love your brilliance, your compassion, your stubborn refusal to rest until your patients are safe. I love that you chose me not because the bond demanded it, but because your soul wanted to. They stood there in the golden afternoon light streaming through the windows, holding each other, and Kenna felt the last piece of her life click into place. This was home. This man, this pack, this place. When do I meet the pack officially? Kenna asked. As your mate, as Luna. There is a ceremony we can do under the next full moon, 3 weeks away. Dane's hands traced up her spine, leaving trails of warmth. But if you want, we can announce it tonight at dinner, make it official before the entire pack. Tonight, Kenna agreed immediately. I do not want to wait. My impatient mate. Dane kissed her forehead, her cheeks, the tip of her nose. 3 weeks ago you needed absolute certainty. Now you do not want to wait. 3 weeks ago I was still figuring out my heart. Kenna pulled him down for another kiss, this one lingering and sweet. Now I know exactly what it wants. You. Always you. Always me, Dane agreed, and sealed the promise with a kiss that made Kenna's wolf sing with joy. Outside, the sun set over Valley Forge, and inside her new office, in the arms of her mate, Kenna Ashford finally came home. A crisp, new morning light, a soft, pale gold, filtered generously through the wide windows of Kenna's new office, illuminating motes of dust dancing in the air as she set up her laptop for the video conference. The cool, smooth surface of the aluminum felt familiar beneath her fingertips, her hands steady despite the frantic flutter of nervous energy deep in her stomach. Subtle tremor ran through her, a stark contrast to the outward composure she projected. This was it, the conversation that would determine the entire trajectory of her future. Dane sat in the sturdy dark wood chair beside her desk, a silent, unyielding anchor. His presence was a palpable weight, solid and reassuring, imbuing the small room with a subtle, comforting scent of pine, damp earth, and his own unique, masculine warmth. But she would told him about the looming call with Director Chen, a new knot of anxiety tightening in her chest. He had not hesitated. His deep voice had been a quiet rumble, his expression steadfast, as he simply said, "I will be there, if you want me." And she wanted him, needed him, actually. The mate bond between them, a golden thread woven through her very being, hummed with a quiet strength that made his proximity a source of immense comfort. Having him so close, a warm, resonant presence at her side, made everything feel intensely possible, every fear a little more manageable. A quiet chime from her laptop signaled the connection, and Director Chen's face materialized on the screen, a sharp, clear image. Her eyes, intelligent and piercing, seemed to assess Kenna instantly, clearly curious about her current surroundings and unspoken background. Faint, almost imperceptible flick of Chen's gaze moved beyond Kenna, briefly touching upon Dane's silent, watchful form. Dr. Ashford could see looking rested. Chen's voice was crisp, professional, and her gaze, though returning to Kenna, held a distinct note of inquiry as it again flickered to Dane. "I see you have company." "This is Dane, Alpha of Valley Forge Pack," Kenna stated, her voice clear and professional, a slight stiffness in her posture. "If I am going to be working remotely from Pack territory, he should be part of this conversation." Chen's perfectly arched eyebrows rose fractionally, a small, controlled gesture that spoke volumes. "Fair enough. So, have you made a decision about the remote consulting position?" Kenna took a slow, deep breath, the air cool in her lungs, feeling the immediate, grounding warmth of Dane's large hand settle firmly on her lower back. The pressure was gentle, yet utterly solid, silent transmission of pride, unwavering support, and deep, quiet love flowing through the mate bond between them. "Yes, I am accepting the position with some conditions. I am listening." Chen's posture remained neutral, but the keenness in her eyes intensified. "I will handle complex, diagnostic cases remotely, consultations, treatment protocols, emergency guidance. I will maintain full hospital access to patient databases and medical records. For critical cases requiring hands-on treatment, I will come in, but I need at least 6 hours' notice when possible." Kenna's voice was firm, resonant with newfound confidence, her shoulders squared. "I will also want to publish case studies and continue contributing to the medical research database. This is not me stepping back from medicine, it is me expanding how I practice it." "Those are reasonable requests." Chen leaned back slightly in her chair, a soft creak of leather audible through the speakers. "What about compensation? Remote consulting typically pays less than in-house positions. Then you will pay me for results, not hours." Kenna met Chen's intelligent gaze steadily, an unyielding resolve hardening her features. "Track my case outcomes. I guarantee my diagnostic accuracy and treatment success rates will be higher working remotely than most doctors achieve in-house. If I am right, you compensate accordingly. If I am wrong, we will renegotiate in 6 months." Dane's thumb, warm and calloused, traced a small, reassuring circle on her lower back, a silent testament of pride, support, and profound love that resonated deep within her, a pure, uncomplicated emotion flowing through their mate bond. Chen smiled slowly, a genuine softening around her eyes. "You have thought this through." "I have. This arrangement works for everyone. A hospital gets access to specialized expertise without geographic limitations. I get to practice medicine while building a life here. And patients get the best possible care regardless of where I am physically located." Kenna's voice held a quiet conviction. "Building a life there," Chen repeated thoughtfully, her gaze once again flickering pointedly to Dane, who remained a silent, imposing figure beside Kenna. "This is permanent, then. You are not coming back to the city." "No," Kenna said simply, her voice soft but absolute. "This is home now." The word settled comfortably, tasting right on her tongue. Shen was quiet for a moment, her analytical mind clearly processing. Then she nodded decisively, a sharp, quick movement. "All right, I will draw up the contracts for remote consulting. You will officially start in 2 weeks. Gives us time to set up the secure systems and brief the staff. But Kenna? Yes, we are lucky to keep you, even remotely. Do not make me regret this arrangement by being unavailable when we need you." "You will not regret it," Kenna promised, her voice laced with unwavering certainty. "I will be more available than when I was in the building. No commute, no administrative meetings, just pure medical work when it matters." They discussed logistics for another 20 minutes, the sound of their voices, a steady rhythm in the quiet room, scheduling parameters, necessary equipment, communication protocols. Finally, Chen signed off with a brisk, efficient, "Welcome to the remote team, Dr. Ashford." The screen went dark, snapping back to Kenna's desktop, and she sagged back into her chair, the sudden release of built-up pressure making her muscles feel weak, the adrenaline that had been coursing through her veins draining away, leaving her utterly spent. "You were incredible," Dane said immediately, his voice a low, warm rumble as he reached for her, effortlessly pulling her into his lap. Solid strength of his arms around her was an exquisite relief, her body molding perfectly against his. Confident, professional, brilliant, Chen did not stand a chance. "I was terrified." Kenna breathed the words against the warm curve of his neck, burying her face into his skin, inhaling deeply. The scent of him, pine and rain and the clean, earthy scent of a warm wolf warmed by the sun, was home, pure and comforting. "What if I mess this up? What if remote consulting does not work?" Her voice was a muffled whisper, a tremor echoing through her. "Then you will figure out something else, but you will not mess it up." Aang's large hand came up, stroking gently through her hair, the soft, rhythmic touch a profound balm to her frayed nerves. "You saved 12 pups from hundreds of miles away. You treated Mira with moon petal that would have killed most wolves to harvest. You are not going to fail at this." His voice was utterly certain, his faith in her a palpable force that settled around her. Kenna pulled back just enough to look at him, her eyes searching his. "You have a lot of faith in me." "I have the right amount of faith in you." He leaned in, his lips brushing hers softly, a feather-light touch that promised so much more, which is absolute and unwavering. "My mate," Kenna murmured, testing the unfamiliar, yet utterly right word on her lips, letting it resonate. "My alpha." "My Luna," Dane responded, his voice deep and warm, and the sheer rightness of it, the profound sense of belonging and destiny, settled into her very bones, a deeply satisfying thrum through their shared bond. By evening, the long, fading light had given way to the soft glow of lanterns and a roaring fire in the massive stone hearth, as the entire pack had gathered in the lodge's great hall for dinner. The cavernous room was a vibrant tapestry of sights and sounds, filled with the warmth of dozens of bodies, the rich, earthy scent of roasted meat and fresh-baked bread, and a lively hum of conversation and laughter. Long, rough-hewn wooden tables stretched across the floor, laden with food, pack members talking and laughing, their voices melding into a warm, familial din. Kenna sat pressed close beside Dane at the head table, Devlin on his other side, and tried to calm the frantic, excited thrum of her racing heart. This was it, the official announcement. Dane stood, his chair scraping briefly against the stone floor, and the room, as if by instinct, immediately quieted. Every eye, dozens of pairs, turned instantly to their alpha, respect and rapt attention automatic, a heavy silence falling expectantly. "Pack," Dane's deep voice carried easily through the vast space, an inherent alpha command resonating beneath the words, making it impossible to ignore. "We have an announcement. Most of you have already guessed, but it is time to make it official." He reached down, his large, warm hand enveloping Kenna's, his fingers firm as he drew her gently to her feet beside him. The mate bond surged with a wave of emotion, pride, possessiveness, and boundless affection. Dr. Kenna Ashford came here to heal one of our own. She saved Mira's life with skill and dedication that awed us all, but in the process of healing our pack, she became pack. Dane's eyes, warm as amber, found hers, shining with an undisguised love that sent a shiver through her. She is my fated mate, and she has chosen to accept that bond, to stay here permanently, and to become Luna of Valley Forge. The pack erupted into a deafening crescendo of cheers, guttural howls that seemed to shake the very rafters, and the thunderous stamping of feet on the wooden floor. Kenna saw Myra, a small, bright spark in the crowd, jumping up and down with unbridled joy, clapping her hands wildly. Nearby, Mira's parents stood, openly crying happy tears, their faces streaked but beaming. Speech. Someone's strong voice boomed, and the cry was enthusiastically taken up by dozens of others, the chant echoing through the lodge. Luna speech. Luna speech. Kenna's throat tightened with a wave of overwhelming emotion, a prickle of tears behind her eyes, but she forced herself to speak, her voice clear despite the tremor. I came here as a doctor. I am leaving as family. Her voice cracked slightly on the last word, thick with feeling. You welcomed a stranger, trusted me with your most vulnerable, and gave me a home when I did not even know I was looking for one. I promise to honor that gift, to protect this pack, to heal when I can, and to stand beside your alpha with everything I have. More cheers, even louder howls, reverberated through the hall. Devlin, standing beside Dane, a wide grin on his face, raised his glass high, the crystal clinking softly. To our new Luna. May she bring healing, strength, and the ability to make Dane actually smile occasionally. Laughter, warm and full-throated, rippled through the entire room. Dane, his eyes sparkling with amusement, pulled Kenna close against his side, his arm wrapping around her waist, and then he kissed her, a deep, possessive kiss, right there in front of the entire pack. It was a claim, a celebration, a joyful announcement to everyone that she was unequivocally his, their breaths mingling, the taste of him utterly intoxicating. When they finally broke apart, both breathless and flushed, the pack was on its feet, the celebration shifting into full pack-gathering mode. The lively strains of a fiddle and drum began, music filling the air, food was passed around with renewed vigor, and Kenna found herself enveloped again and again, in warm, strong hugs and enthusiastic congratulations from dozens of wolves, their hands patting her shoulder, their voices booming with good wishes. Mara, with the determined focus of a small pup, attached herself firmly to Kenna's leg, her small hand gripping Kenna's jeans. You are staying forever now. Her voice was a hopeful whisper. Forever, Kenna confirmed, kneeling down to the pup's level, her eyes meeting Myra's bright ones. The soft fur of Myra's sweater brushed against her cheek. I am not going anywhere. Good. Because you promised to teach me about being brave, and I have lots more questions. Kenna laughed, a bright, clear sound, and hugged the small girl who would innocently brought her here in the first place, feeling the warmth of Myra's little body against hers. Then we will have lots more lessons. The celebration continued 4 hours, the lodge alive with the sounds of joy and belonging. But Kenna was constantly aware of Dane's presence, the comforting pressure of his hand on her waist, the subtle weight of his gaze tracking her movements, the mate bond humming with a low, delicious thrum of anticipation that promised a private celebration to come. Finally, as the boisterous party began its gentle winding down, Dane leaned close, his warm breath ghosting against her ear, and whispered, "Come with me." Kenna's heart stuttered, a quick, sharp beat. She knew what he was asking, what they both wanted, an unspoken desire that resonated deeply within her. She took his hand, her fingers intertwining with his, and let him lead her through the still lively compound, past her old, now empty guest cabin, towards the Alpha's residence, a larger cabin, its dark wood catching the gleam of the moon, set slightly apart from the others, surrounded by tall pines, private, quiet. Dane opened the sturdy wooden door, the hinges groaning softly, and Kenna stepped inside. The space was distinctly masculine but surprisingly comfortable. A large, inviting bed, with thick, dark bedding dominated the room. Simple, unadorned furniture of dark wood filled the space, and wide windows overlooked the moonlit forest. Everything about it, from the subtle scent of Dane's unique musk mixed with cedar and pine, to the quiet power of its arrangement, screamed alpha, strength, and truly, utterly, home. "This is where you live," Kenna said unnecessarily, the words catching in her throat, nerves making her voice shake slightly. "This is where we live now," Dane corrected, his voice a low, intimate rumble, as he gently closed the heavy door behind them, the soft click echoing in the sudden quiet, sealing them in. "If you want, we can take our time. Move your things gradually." Kenna kissed him quietly then, her lips finding his, pouring every last drop of the swirling emotions she felt, joy, relief, gratitude, and a fierce, burning longing, into the embrace. She tasted the warmth of him, felt the firm pressure of his mouth on hers. "I want this. I want you. I am ready." Her voice, though still hushed, was firm with absolute certainty. Dane's eyes darkened, his hands coming up to cradle her face. "Are you certain? Because, once we seal this bond, Kenna, there is no going back. You will be mine completely, and I will be yours. The mate bond will be permanent. I am certain," which she would never been more certain of anything in her life. "I choose you, Dane, not because fate told me to, because my soul recognizes yours." Something broke in Dane's careful control. He kissed her deeply, thoroughly, walking her backward until her legs hit the bed. They tumbled onto it together, hands exploring, discovering, claiming. Clothes disappeared piece by piece, each reveal met with reverent touches and whispered words. Dane's hands traced her freckles like he was memorizing constellations. Kenna's fingers mapped the muscles of his back, his shoulders, his chest. "Beautiful," Dane murmured against her skin. "You are so beautiful." "So are you," Kenna breathed, and then words became unnecessary. They came together slowly, carefully, Dane's eyes never leaving hers. The mate bond flared brilliantly and overwhelming as their bodies joined, the connection snapping into place with a completeness that made Kenna gasp. She felt everything, his love, his desire, his absolute devotion, and he felt hers, the bond flowing both ways, perfect and unbreakable. They moved together, finding rhythm, building towards something that was both physical and spiritual. Kenna's wolf rose to meet Dane's, the two animals recognizing and celebrating their union. "I missed you," Dane growled, his canines elongating slightly. "I hated being apart," Kenna agreed. He kissed her deeply as they reached the peak together, the mate bond blazing so bright it felt like they were made of light. Afterward, wrapped in each other's arms, Kenna felt the bond settle into something permanent and precious. She could feel Dane's heartbeat as if it were her own, could sense his emotions like a constant gentle presence in the back of her mind. "I can feel you," she whispered in wonder. "I know." "I feel you too." Dane's hand stroked through her hair, tender and possessive. "Every emotion, every thought you choose to share. We are bonded now, Kenna, truly mated." Kenna pressed her hand to his chest, feeling his heart beat steady and strong. "I love you. I love you." Don kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "My Luna." They lay together in the darkness, the mate bond glowing warm and complete between them, and Kenna knew she would find exactly where she belonged. In 3 weeks, they would have the Luna ceremony before the pack, but tonight, in the quiet darkness of their shared space, they would claim each other in the way that mattered most. The sunlight was a pale, buttery yellow, slanting sharply across the polished wooden floorboards of their shared bedroom. Kenna woke to its warmth and the heavy muscled weight of Dane's arm draped possessively across her waist, the coarse hair on his forearm a slight texture against her silk pajama top. The air in the room smelled of pine and clean linen, overlaid with Dane's constant, deep, earthy scent, cedar, and old leather. The sound of his steady, deep breathing filled the quiet morning air. She smiled, the warmth seeping into her back from his solid chest, and pressed closer. The simple sensation of his skin against hers still sent a wave of electric calm through her system. This, waking up beside him every morning, still felt like a gift she had not quite earned. The mate bond did not just hum. It was a deep, resonant thrum, a vibration of perfect peace, right beneath her sternum. He felt the subtle shift in his large muscles, the The slight tension in his shoulder signaling his consciousness was beginning to pull away from sleep's heavy blanket. "Morning," he rumbled, his voice thick and low, like stones rolling downhill. His lips, dry and warm, brushed the sensitive skin just below her ear. "Morning, Alpha." Kenna turned in his arms, her bare knee brushing his calf, and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was soft, tasting faintly of sleep and Dane. "Sleep well, always do with you here." His fingertips, calloused from training, traced lazy, deliberate circles over the curve of her hip beneath the thin sheet, a possessive, comforting weight. "What is your schedule today?" "Morning consult conference at 8 with the hospital. 3 cases to review, 2 diagnostic puzzles, and 1 treatment protocol follow-up." Kenna mentally ran through her tasks, feeling the cool, analytical side of her brain snap into place. "Then I want to do pack rounds this afternoon. I have been tracking supplement needs, and there are a few deep bruises and 1 possible sprain from training yesterday I should check on." Dane groaned, a sound that resonated deep in his chest. "You did pack rounds 2 days ago, and people's needs change daily." Kenna kissed the bridge of his nose, smooth skin over hard bone, and slipped out of bed. The chill morning air immediately raised goosebumps on her skin. She padded across the plush rug, heading for the shower. "That is why they call it healthcare, not healthcare, when convenient." She heard Dane's laugh, a rich, full sound, echoing lightly off the bathroom tiles, felt his overwhelming wave of amusement through the bond, and smiled to herself. Her life was now physically integrated with his. Her medical textbooks, with their slightly worn bindings, now filled half the oak office bookshelves. Her clothes, smelling faintly of clean dryer sheets, hung beside his heavy wool coats and training gear in the cedar-lined closet. Her coffee mug, the one that said, "Trust me, I am a doctor," slightly chipped near the handle, sat next to his plain black ceramic one in the kitchen cabinet. It was domestic and grounded, full of the satisfying textures and sense of permanence, at exactly what she would been missing without knowing it. By 7:45 a.m., Kenna was showered, dressed in comfortable jeans that were soft and worn, and a soft blue sweater that felt like a gentle hug. She was settled at her desk in the medical office with her second cup of coffee. The hot mug warmed her palms, the coffee aroma sharp, bitter comfort. Her laptop screen glowed a steady blue-white light, reflecting faintly in her focused eyes. Case files were pulled up, diagnostic notes ready. The video conference connected at exactly 8 a.m. Dr. Martinez and 2 other hospital physicians appeared on screen. "Morning, Kenna," Martinez greeted. His face looked tired even through the slight screen pixelation. "Ready to work some magic?" "Always." "What have we got?" They dove into the first case, a teenager with recurring seizures that did not respond to standard medication. Kenna leaned forward, her voice crisp and authoritative. She asked the pointed questions. The air conditioning hummed faintly in the quiet office. She felt the snap of intellectual recognition as the seemingly disparate symptoms locked into place in her mind. A rush of focused, professional adrenaline. "Run the antibody panel for NMDA receptor encephalitis," she instructed. "I will bet you anything that comes back positive. The treatment protocol is immunotherapy, not anticonvulsants." The second case pulled her focus tighter, an adult werewolf whose shift was becoming progressively more painful. Kenna frowned, tapping a sterile pen against the edge of her glass desktop, the sound a small, rhythmic tick. She spent 40 minutes visualizing the muscle structure and the deep, grinding pain the patient must be experiencing before landing on a degenerative muscle condition that required specialized physical therapy and targeted supplements. By 10:30 a.m., she had solved both diagnostic puzzles and approved the treatment follow-up for the third patient. The hospital team signed off with grateful thanks, and the metallic click of the laptop clasp closing was a definitive end to the morning. Kenna closed her laptop with satisfaction. This was working. Remote consulting was working beautifully. She stretched, her back cracking loudly, and stepped out of her office to find both twins waiting in the main medical cabin. Stepping out, she immediately caught the scent of the twins, ozone, fresh sweat, and the sharp metallic tang of exertion. "Show off," Devlin said, but he was grinning, his eyes bright. "We could hear you through the door. Run this test. Try this treatment. Problem solved. Very impressive. Just doing my job. Kenna stretched again. How was training? Brutal, Bain said, his chest still heaving slightly from the heavy workout. He pulled her against the damp, solid warmth of his body for a kiss that was quick and firm, tasting faintly of salt and effort. The light stubble on his jaw scratched lightly against her cheek. Dev pushed the intermediate fighters hard this morning. We have got a few bruises and one possible sprained ankle. I will check on them this afternoon during rounds. Kenna made a mental note. Speaking of which, I need to review my supplement inventory. Mrs. Chen's prenatal vitamins are running low, and Marcus mentioned his knee was acting up, probably needs anti-inflammatories. Lunch first, Dane said firmly. You have been working for 3 hours straight. 2.5. Lunch. Now. He steered her toward the lodge, Devlin falling into step on her other side, the floorboards of the lodge vibrating subtly beneath her feet as they walked. The lodge dining hall was a place of sensory overwhelm, a cacophony of clanking silverware, low, murmuring conversations, and the rich mingled scents of baking bread, salty ham, and warming fruit. When she entered, the happy pack noise dropped immediately, replaced by a sudden, heavy quiet. She felt the weight of dozens of attentive eyes, prickling sensation on her skin, and saw the shift in their postures, back straightening, shoulders pulling back. Luna. She was Luna now. They settled at a table with plates piled high with sandwiches and fruit. Kenna bit into a crisp, tart apple slice and found herself relaxing into the comfortable rhythm of the twins' banter. Devlin was telling a story about a young wolf who had accidentally shifted mid-sentence during training, his voice full of playful mischief, and then he just stood there, half transformed, looking absolutely mortified while his wolf was wagging its tail. Poor kid, Kenna said, giggling. First shifts are always awkward. This was his 20th shift. He just got excited. Devlin stole a ripe purple grape from her plate, but he will never live it down. Myra appeared at Kenna's elbow, the movement quick and light, healthy and vibrant, her green eyes bright. She smelled powerfully of clean soap and playground dirt. Luna, Kenna, can I sit with you? Of course, sweetheart. Kenna made room, pushing her sandwich plate aside, and Myra climbed onto the bench beside her. My mom says you are coming to check on her this afternoon. She is excited. I am. I want to make sure her blood pressure is staying stable. Mira's mother was pregnant with her second pup. Are you being helpful at home? Very helpful. I helped her fold laundry yesterday and only turned 3 shirts inside out. Dane choked on his water, the sound sharp and wet, and Devlin laughed outright. Kenna just wrapped her arms around the small, firm body, feeling the silkiness of the child's hair against her chin. The profound, deep satisfaction of community bloomed in her chest, a warm pressure akin to the mate bond's most comforting pulse. This was what she would have been missing in the city: connection, community, family. After lunch, Kenna adjusted the heavy, familiar weight of her leather medical bag on her shoulder and gathered a large tote filled with supplements, salves, and various remedies, the plastic bottles inside clicking softly together. She would made a precise list that morning of everyone who needed follow-up care, prioritizing based on risk. I will be back in a few hours, she told Dane, who was heading to his office for alpha paperwork. Be back by dinner, he countered, his voice firm. And actually eat dinner, not just check people's vitals while your food gets cold. That happened one time. 3 times this week, Devlin corrected, appearing with his own stack of slightly crumpled reports. You are as bad as he is about working through meals. Fine. Back by dinner, I will eat actual food. Kenna kissed Dane quickly, the scent of his cologne subtle and clean, and headed out. She started with the Thornbrook cabin. Miss Thornbrook was indeed excited to see her, ushering Kenna inside with warm hospitality. The cabin smelled delightfully of ginger and sweet wood smoke, and she offered tea that Kenna did not have time to drink, but accepted anyway to be polite, the porcelain of the teacup warm against her cold fingertips. Blood pressure looks great, Kenna said, after taking readings. The cuff felt tight against Mrs. Thornbrook's arm, and the baby's heartbeat is strong, a quick, steady thump, thump. You are doing everything right, thanks to you and these vitamins. Mrs. Thornbrook gestured to the bottle Kenna had prescribed. I brought more. Kenna pulled a fresh bottle from her bag. These should last another month, and I want to see you again in 2 weeks for a checkup. Next was Marcus, the security chief. His knee was indeed swollen, the skin hot and taut beneath her gentle probing fingers. The swelling was a spongy firmness under her palm. Kenna spent 20 minutes examining it, applying a specialized salve that was thick and cool, smelling strongly of menthol and eucalyptus. The clean cotton gauze felt slightly abrasive as she wrapped it securely, maintaining even firm pressure. No heavy training for 3 days, she instructed firmly. Light exercises only. I will check on you tomorrow. Yes, Luna. Marcus grinned at her. You are scarier than the alphas when you are in doctor mode. Good. Fear keeps patients compliant. She moved from cabin to cabin, her list growing checks instead of names. The Morrison family needed antihistamines for seasonal allergies. Young Thomas had a persistent raspy cough that needed monitoring. Elder Ruth wanted to discuss her arthritis medication. Kenna felt the rough wool of Ruth's blanket as she sat beside her. At each stop, Kenna was pulled into warm hugs, offered snacks, the sticky sweetness of a homemade cookie, and congratulated on becoming Luna. She listened to concerns, answered questions, her pen scratching quick, precise notes onto her pad. At the training grounds, she found 3 wolves nursing injuries from the morning session. Kenna patched them up efficiently. Small, papery butterfly bandages held the edges of a cut tautly closed. An ice bag felt numbingly cold through the thin towel against a throbbing, purple-tinged shoulder, and she secured the flexible sports wrap around a sprained wrist, the tension just tight, enough to offer firm support. You are getting sloppy with your blocks, she told the wolf with the sprained wrist. Keep your guard up or you will injure more than your wrist next time. Yes, Luna. The sun was starting to set when Kenna finally made it back toward the lodge, her medical bag significantly lighter, her notebook full of observations and follow-up tasks. She was mentally cataloging what supplements she needed to order when she realized the twins were standing on the lodge steps, watching her. No, they would have been watching her for a while, she realized, tracking her movements around the compound. How long have you been standing there? Kenna asked as she approached. All. Long enough to watch you visit 14 cabins in 4 hours, Dane said, but his voice was gentle. Long enough to see you hug approximately 30 pack members and treat 8 different injuries. Someone has to take care of the pack. We have a pack doctor for that, Edlin pointed out. Dr. Harrison handles routine care. Dr. Harrison is great for emergencies and basic care. But I can do more: preventative medicine, supplement optimization, specialized treatments. Kenna climbed the steps to stand between them. Why are you both looking at me like that? The twins exchanged a look, one of their silent communications. Kenna, Dane started carefully. When was the last time you took a day off? I do not need. When? He pressed. Kenna thought about it. I am not working at the hospital every day anymore, so technically every day is partially a day off. You did consulting work this morning for 3 hours, Tevlin listed. Then you spent 4 hours doing pack medical rounds. Yesterday you worked remote consultations for 5 hours, then reorganized the entire medical supply cabinet. The day before that, you worked 6 hours of consultations and spent the evening researching a new treatment protocol. I like staying busy. You are going to burn out, Dane said, and now there was alpha command in his voice. You worked yourself to exhaustion at the hospital, came here and saved Myra while barely sleeping, handled that mass poisoning emergency on no rest, and now you are trying to personally healthcare every single pack member, while also consulting remotely. Kenna bristled. I am fine. You are not. Devlin's voice was softer than Dane's, but just as firm. You are incredible, and we love that you care so much. But Kenna, you need an off switch. You need to be able to stop working and just exist. I do exist. I exist while being useful and helping people. That is not the same thing. Dane pulled her close, his hand cupping her face. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to do nothing. You are allowed to take care of yourself the way you take care of everyone else. Kenna felt her throat tighten. What if people need me and I am not available? Then Dr. Harrison handles it. Or they wait an hour until you are available again. Dane's thumb brushed her cheek. The pack will survive if you are not working every waking moment. I promise. But I want to help. And you do. You help so much that we are all worried you are going to collapse. Devlin squeezed her shoulder. We need you to be healthy and happy, not brilliant and exhausted. The mate bond pulsed with Dane's genuine concern, his love, his need for her to understand. Kenna sighed slightly, the weight of the past weeks catching up with her. I do not work, she admitted quietly. It is what I do. It is who I am. It is part of who you are, Dane corrected. But you are also my mate, Luna of this pack, a woman who deserves rest and joy and time to just breathe. He kissed her forehead. Let us take care of you the way you take care of everyone else. Kenna looked between them, these two alphas who saw her so clearly, who loved her enough to call her out when she pushed too hard. Okay, she whispered. I will try. I will try to find an off switch. Good, Devlin grinned. Starting now. No work for the rest of the night. Just dinner, maybe a movie, and early bed. I can do that. Kenna let herself relax into Dane's arms. I think. They guided her inside, and Kenna felt the tension she had been carrying begin to ease. Learning to be Luna meant learning to lead. But maybe it also meant learning to let herself be cared for too. Kenna's eyes fluttered open as a harsh, guttural sound ripped through the quiet pre-dawn stillness of their bedroom. It was not the gentle clearing your throat kind, but a deep, rattling, wet cough that seemed to tear through Dane's chest, causing her own heart to give a painful lurch of alarm. A shiver of unease traced its way down her spine before her doctor brain snapped to immediate, cold attention, overriding the lingering warmth of sleep. Beside her, Dane was already sitting bolt upright, his broad shoulders hunched forward, a large, calloused hand pressed tightly against his sternum. Each violent cough shuddered through his powerful frame, vibrating the mattress beneath Kenna, a physical tremor that mirrored the sudden chill in her belly. The faint, bruised light filtering through the heavy curtains only deepened the shadows around him, making him seem stark and vulnerable. In the pre-dawn darkness, the struggle for air was palpable, punctuated by a thin, reedy wheeze that whistled between his ragged coughs, sounding far too tight and constricted for her powerful alpha mate. A sharp spike of fear, cold and metallic, shot through the mate bond, making Kenna's breath hitch. Dane? She rasped, her own voice thick with sleep and sudden alarm. She pushed herself up on an elbow, the cool sheets rustling against her skin, and reached out, her palm warm against the tense, muscular curve of his upper back, feeling the tremors of each cough ripple beneath her touch. How long has this been happening? Just another brutal coughing fit cut him off, making his entire body convulse. His voice, when it finally broke through, was raw and strained. Just started. Woke me up. Kenna's heart rate spiked, a frantic drum against her ribs. The mate bond throbbed with a deeper, more insistent unease. She scrambled out of bed, her bare feet meeting the cool, smooth wood floor. With a flick of her wrist, the bedside lamp clicked on, flooding the room with a sudden warm glow that made Dane squint. She snatched her well-worn stethoscope from the dresser, the familiar coolness of its metal parts a grounding presence in her shaking hands. A faint metallic tang of fear pricked at her tongue. She pressed its chilled diaphragm to Dane's chest, the thin plastic feeling surprisingly cold against his warm skin. Breathe for me, deep as you can. Her voice was steady, carefully clinical, belying the tight knot of dread in her stomach. Dane tried a ragged intake of breath that pulled at his ribs, but the effort instantly triggered another wrenching cough. Kenna listened intently, her ear tuned to the subtle whispers within his lungs. She could hear the distinct, higher-pitched wheezing in the upper airways, a slight crackling in the lower lobes, but nothing that sounded like the wet gurgle of fluid or the ominous rasp of a full-blown infection. Yet, any pain? She asked, her voice clipped professional, despite the raw fear clawing at her chest, trying to tear through the mate bond's connection to his distress. No. Just cannot stop coughing. His voice was hoarse, punctuated by a dry rasp. Fever? Chills? Nausea? No, Kenna. I am fine. The cough interrupted him again, a violent spasm that sent a jolt of alarm through Kenna. His eyes watered, listening slightly in the bright lamplight, and his face was growing a little flushed with the effort. You are not fine. Kenna was already pulling on clothes, her fingers fumbling with the buttons of her comfortable cotton shirt, the soft fabric of familiar texture against her skin. Her mind raced, a turbulent storm of medical possibilities: upper respiratory infection, pneumonia, crushing anxiety from the mate bond, allergic reaction, environmental irritant, bronchitis, asthma, heart issues presenting as cough. Kenna. Dane caught her hand, his grip firm, warm, and surprisingly steady despite the tremors racking his body. His voice was rough, but held an underlying tone of command. Do not spiral. It is just a cough. A mate bond pulsed with a reassuring warmth, a gentle nudge against her fear. Alphas do not just cough. She pressed her palm to his forehead. His skin felt warm, normal, no fever. Your immune system is stronger than most wolves. If you are coughing like this, something is wrong. Her voice resonated with an edge of frustrated worry. She made him sit still while she did a full examination, gently palpating his throat, feeling for swollen lymph nodes with sensitive fingertips, listening to his chest with the cold stethoscope, taking his vitals. His pulse was a little fast, but within normal limits. His breath sounds were still wheezy, but the rest seemed stubbornly normal, except for the persistent, worsening cough and the slight, audible rasp when he breathed. The mate bond, though, still hummed with a low current of distress from his body. I am putting you on bed rest, Kenna announced, her voice leaving no room for argument. What? Node's protest was cut short by a fresh volley of coughs. Bed rest. Now. I need to figure out what this is, and you need to rest so your body can fight it. She was already texting Devlin, her thumbs flying across the cold glass of her phone screen. Dane's sick. Need you to cover alpha duties today. Response came almost immediately, buzzing against her palm. On my way. Devlin arrived 10 minutes later, his heavy footsteps echoing softly in the hall before he appeared in the doorway. He found Kenna inexorably forcing sips of water and chalky vitamins down Dane's throat, while Dane glared mutinously, a deep rumble rumbling in his chest between coughs. I have training to run, Dane started, his voice a gravelly whisper. Dev's running training. You are staying in bed. Kenna's voice had that firm, unyielding doctor tone, a sound that brooked no argument. Devlin took one look at his brother, the pale cast to his skin, the slight slump of his shoulders, the harsh, ragged coughs tearing through him, the faint, high-pitched wheeze still audible in the air, and his expression shifted from calm concern to something deeper. How bad? Do not know yet. Could be nothing. Could be something serious. Kenna grabbed her laptop, its cool metal casing familiar under her fingers. I am going to research respiratory conditions in alpha wolves. You keep him in this bed. Use force if necessary. She could feel the cold prickle of urgency emanating from the mate bond. I am right here, Dane protested hoarsely, his voice scratchy. And you are staying here. Kenna leaned down, pressing a soft kiss to his warm forehead, despite the cold tendrils of terror coiling in her gut. Let me take care of you. She spent the next 4 hours in a research spiral that would have impressed her hospital colleagues. The click and whir of her laptop was the only sound in the quiet study as she delved into medical databases, scoured werewolf-specific respiratory studies, and pored over dusty case files of alpha wolves with breathing issues. The screen's cool light cast a pale glow on her face as she cross-referenced symptoms, methodically ruled out infections, and considered every conceivable environmental factor. She could feel the low thrum of Dane's enduring discomfort through their bond, a constant dull ache. Dane's cough was not improving. If anything, it was getting worse, harsher, more frequent, a dry, tearing sound, the wheeze more pronounced, almost a whistle now. Kenna brought him a steaming mug of tea, the sweet scent of honey and lemon wafting through the air. She made him inhale the warm, moist steam from a bowl of hot water, the vapor tickling his nose. She listened to his lungs with her stethoscope every hour, the cold disc pressing against his skin. Nothing helped. By noon, the mate bond was thrumming with her escalating panic, a cold wave washing over her. Maybe we should take him to the hospital, she told Devlin, her voice tight, almost a whisper, as he stepped quietly into the bedroom. He would been going back and forth between alpha duties and checking on his brother, his own worry a tangible presence. Kenna, breathe. Devlin caught her shoulders, his hands warm and firm, a steadying presence. The scent of pine and damp earth, faintly clinging to him from the outdoors, was a familiar comfort. You are spiraling. He's getting worse. What if it is something I am missing? What if her voice cracked, a desperate plea. What if you were too close to this to think clearly? Devlin's voice was gentle but firm, his eyes holding hers steadily. He is your mate. You are terrified. I get it. But you are the best diagnostician I have ever seen, and you are not letting yourself actually diagnose. Kenna pressed her hands to her face, feeling the warmth of her own skin, forcing herself to breathe deeply, slowly. Devlin was right. The mate bond was clouding her judgment, turning her into a terrified mate instead of a competent doctor. Okay. She lowered her hands, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly as she straightened her back. I need to approach this systematically, not as his mate, as his doctor. A renewed sense of cold focus began to settle over her. She went back to Dane, who was propped up on pillows looking miserable and annoyed, his brow furrowed, his chest still heaving slightly with effort. Tell me everything, Kenna said, pulling out her notebook, its smooth pages a fresh start. Her pen clicked against the paper. And did you first notice any symptoms? Not just the cough, anything unusual at all? Dane thought about it, a slight frown deepening the lines around his eyes. My throat felt scratchy yesterday afternoon. I thought it was just dry air. He cleared his throat, a dry, rasping sound. Where were you when you noticed it? The office, doing paperwork. The scent of old paper and dust, a faint, lingering aroma, seemed to waft from his words. And before that, training grounds in the morning, then lunch in the lodge, then the office all afternoon. Kenna wrote everything down, her pen scratching softly on the page. The cough started when you woke up. What time did you go to bed? Around 11. So roughly 5 hours of sleep before symptoms started. She tapped her pen against the notebook, the sound a low, rhythmic beat. What did you do right before bed? Read for a bit. You were already asleep. What were you reading? Dane gestured to the nightstand with a weak hand. That old pack history book, the one from the archive room. Kenna picked up the book, its worn, leather-bound cover feeling dry and brittle under her fingers. Small, gray cloud of dust puffed off the cover as she lifted it, and she sneezed violently, a sudden explosive sound that rattled her teeth. The back of her throat instantly felt dry and ticklish, and the faint, musty scent of ancient paper and accumulated dust filled her nostrils. Her brain clicked into place like a key on a lock, the sensation almost physical, a sudden, blinding flash of clarity. Dane, she said slowly, her voice soft but firm. Have you been spending more time in the archive room lately? Yeah, actually. I have been going through old pack records, organizing them. Why? His voice still held a rough, questioning edge. How long have you been doing that? A couple of weeks? I go there most afternoons for an hour or two. The pieces fell together with a satisfying, almost audible click in Kenna's mind. The timeline matched. 2 weeks of increasing exposure to a dusty environment, symptoms starting mildly with a scratchy throat and escalating to this violent, wheezing cough. Upper airway irritation, no infection, no fever, just mechanical inflammation from repeated exposure to an irritant. The mate bond, which had been buzzing with panic, now settled into a calmer, more understanding hum. It is not an illness, Kenna breathed, a wave of immense relief washing over her, making her knees feel a little weak. It is an allergy. What? Dane's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of surprise in their depths. She grabbed her stethoscope again, her movements swifter and more confident, listening to his lungs with fresh understanding. You have developed a dust allergy. The archive room is full of old books and papers that have not been properly cleaned in decades. You have been breathing in dust particles for weeks, and your airways are inflamed and irritated. That is why standard treatments are not helping. There is nothing to fight. Your immune system is just overreacting to environmental irritants. The tension in her shoulders finally eased, replaced by a profound sense of calm. Dane stared at her, strange expression mixing disbelief and dawning comprehension. I'm allergic to dust? Severely, it seems. The cough, the wheeze, the airway inflammation, it all fits. Kenna was already pulling up information on her laptop. Adult-onset allergies in werewolves are rare but not unheard of. usually triggered by prolonged exposure to a specific allergen. So I am not dying. No, you stubborn alpha. You are not dying. You are having an allergic reaction. Relief flooded through her so intensely she had to sit down. But this is chronic now. You will have this allergy for the rest of your life. Devlin appeared in the doorway. Did I just hear you say Dane is allergic to dust? Severely allergic, Kenna confirmed, which means we need to do a deep clean of the entire compound, especially the archive room, and Dane needs strong antihistamines to manage symptoms when exposure is unavoidable. The mighty alpha, brought down by dust bunnies. Devlin's grin was merciless. This is the best day of my life. Not helping Dev, Dane growled, but he was smiling too, clearly relieved it was not something serious. Kenna was already organizing her thoughts. I will prepare a treatment protocol, daily antihistamines during high pollen seasons, emergency inhaler for acute reactions, and environmental modifications. The archive room needs professional cleaning. Actually, the whole lodge needs deep cleaning. I will get pack members on it immediately. You are enjoying this, Dane accused. I am enjoying that you are not dying. Yes, Kenna kissed him soundly. And I am enjoying getting to order you around with medical authority. Take this antihistamine, now. She handed him a pill and water, watching to ensure he swallowed it. Within 20 minutes, his cough began to ease. Within an hour, the wheeze was nearly gone. By evening, Kenna had mobilized half the pack for the Great Valley Forge deep clean. The archive room was emptied, every book carefully wiped down and stored in sealed containers. The lodge was dusted top to bottom. Air filters were installed throughout the compound. Dane sat in bed, breathing easily for the first time in days, watching his mate orchestrate the cleaning operation with military precision. She is terrifying when she is in doctor mode, he said to Devlin, who had brought him dinner. She is terrifying all the time. You just do not notice because you are in love with her. Devlin set down the tray. But seriously, brother, she saved you again. Figured out something none of us would have thought of. I know. Dane's voice was soft, his eyes on Kenna as she directed pack members with gestures and firm instructions. She is incredible. She also had a complete panic spiral this morning, thinking you might die from a cough. I know that too. Dane smiled. She loves me that much. We all do. But yeah, she has got it bad for you. Devlin clapped his shoulder. Welcome to having a Luna who is also a brilliant doctor. She will keep you alive whether you like it or not. Late that night, after the cleaning was done and the compound smelled like disinfectant and fresh air, Kenna finally crawled into bed beside Dane. How are you feeling? She asked, her hand automatically going to his chest to feel his breathing. Perfect. The antihistamine worked. Dane caught her hand, bringing it to his lips. Thank you for not giving up. For figuring it out. I almost did not. I was so scared I could not think straight. Kenna's voice cracked. When you were coughing this morning, all I could think was, what if I lose you? What if there is something I cannot fix? But you did fix it. You always do. Dane pulled her close, tucking her against his chest. You are the best doctor I know, and more importantly, you are my mate. My Luna, the person I trust with my life, even when I spiral and put you on unnecessary bed rest. Especially then. It means you care. He kissed the top of her head. Though I am definitely going to hear about the dust allergy for the rest of my life. From everyone in the pack, yes. Kenna giggled despite herself. Devlin is already making jokes. Of course he is. They lay together in comfortable silence, the mate bond humming contentedly between them. Kenna listened to Dane's breathing, clear, easy, healthy, and felt the last of her terror drain away. I am going to make you carry an inhaler everywhere, she murmured, and take daily antihistamines, and we are installing HEPA filters in every building. Whatever you say, doctor, and no more going into dusty archives without a mask. Yes, Luna. And Kenna pulled back to look at him, seeing the love and amusement in his gray eyes. And I love you so much, even when you scare me half to death with mystery coughs. I love you too. Dane kissed her softly. Even when you turn into a terrifying medical tyrant who makes the entire pack deep clean on a Tuesday. It was necessary for your health. It was adorable overkill. Same thing, Dane laughed, the sound rich and healthy and perfect. This is our life now, is not it? You diagnosing things, he pretending to protest your treatments, and the pack rolling their eyes at both of us. Sounds about right. Kenna settled back against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Think you can handle it? With you? I can handle anything. Dane's arms tightened around her, even dust allergies and a mate who panics when I cough. I did not panic. You absolutely panicked. Fine, I panicked, but I also saved you. You did. My brilliant, wonderful, slightly neurotic Luna. He kissed her hair. I would not have it any other way. Outside their window, the full moon rose over Valley Forge, bathing the compound in silver light. In the distance, wolves howled their evening songs. The pack was safe, healthy, together. And in the Alpha's cabin, wrapped in each other's arms, Dane and Kenna drifted toward sleep with smiles on their faces and absolute certainty in their hearts. She would come here to heal a pup, and found her home, found her mate, found herself. The journey had been confusing, testing, and sometimes terrifying. But every moment had led her exactly where she needed to be, here, with him, forever. Sweet dreams, Alpha, Kenna whispered. Sweet dreams, my Luna, Dane murmured back. And as they fell asleep together, the mate bond glowed warm and complete between them, a promise kept, a choice honored, a love that would last lifetimes. That is the end of this tale, but in the world of the supernatural, there is always another shadow waiting. Thank you for staying with me through every twist, turn, and heartbeat. If you enjoyed the ride, there is more waiting for you. Take a look at the other audiobooks on this channel. Do not forget to subscribe if you offer magic, monsters, and stories that go bump in the night. Until next time, stay curious and brave. Never stop listening.